Wait for the delay.
I know, you'll kill me if I don't. Alright, hello and welcome everyone. This is State of Exile, episode 29. And we're going to be talking strictly about beta testing. Everyone here has been part of the beta now for the past week. And as a heads up, this will be a spoiler episode. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't want to listen in, if you're coming in from YouTube or on Twitch, this is going to be a spoiler heavy episode. Pretty much very little live talk at all. So what's going on?
It's pretty much going to be like that until until it comes out.
Until it's live.
Talking about. Yeah. So those people trying to avoid spoilers right now, those guys have to basically seal themselves in a room and black out the windows and equip their tinfoil hats and just hope and pray that no spoilers will occur. I admire those people though.
I don't know how
Good
they
luck.
really do it.
6 weeks, roughly.
6 to 8 weeks, yeah.
Pretty tough. Welcome. I'm excited. Had a lot of fun over the past couple of days.
Oh yeah.
In case you guys are tuning in, today's special guest is Ghazzy. He's more well known for playing summoners than anything else, so if anybody out there likes to know how the summoning lifestyle changes in beta, he's the go-to guy for questions. Speaking of questions, we're going to be doing a Q&A at the end of this, so anything beta related you want to talk about, just fire a question at us to at ZiggyD Live and then ask your question so that he could see it and put it into a Word doc. Alright, so welcome to Ghazzy. You feel good to be back, man?
Feeling great, what can I say? Being part of the community is always nice to be. Playing the beta has been eye-opening and been pushing the theory, crafting a lot of things. It's really good to be back, I must say that.
Alright, so you're playing the beta. What are your impressions thus far? I mean, what have you even been playing in the beta? Yeah.
I've been playing this really cool Cyclone melee guy. Something. No, but jokes aside, I've been always playing Summoner, and I think that with the look of the tree, Raging Spirit has been directly given buffs. There's no comparison. There's no reason to test it. I don't feel any reason at all to give SRS any
just know
test.
it's going to be stronger, really?
Yeah, just took a look at the tree, and there's a direct 40% increased physical damage plus the war cry that increases damage. I mean, all we see is damage increasing changes to the SRS build. So, and then we have two other details, which is more general changes. I want to know if the Intuitive Leap can reach infused shields around CI, because if it can, that means the low life build will be using that, and that's the only change on that side of the tree. And then you have the node around the northeastern jewel slot from Cyan Wheel Start, if that is worth taking, depending on how the aura nodes nearby will be looking when the beta is over. That might be something we can consider for that selfless jewel that gives nodes to your minions instead. But that's it, and I felt no need to test a build that only required late game, end game stuffs to be tested. But classic summoner. Oh man.
So wait a minute. Minion damage before was increased damage. Now it's a 40% more multiplier. That's night and day. Crazy buffs to damage. It's 40% more damage at level 1 now.
Ghazzy, I'm going to ask you a hard question here. Do you think this means that summoners will be doing more damage?
Where's the tinfoil?
I mean, I know it says more damage, but...
I mean, multiplier versus increased is... I mean, come on. Freaking... The Evangelist already did enough damage. SRS already did enough damage. Now it's multiplier? What? It's one of the biggest changes ever.
Zombies used to hit so hard as well.
Absolutely. It's a little bit annoying to some degree. First, I was so excited. I was so hyped. When I saw it, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be love. Love in a gem. It's like a gem with love in it. End of story. That's what it is. And it's finally opening up the fact that minion-based and related gems are now going to be among the top 5 support gems used for minions. And that is something I've been lacking and missing from the game. That the things that are actually related to minions should be the most optimal things to use for it. And then you can have other things besides that. But having those gems not being optimal for a build seems a little bit boring to some degree. First off, with which quest rewards you got a minion damage before. It's like you looked at it and figured, okay, I'll use it till I find something else, like faster attacks or multi-strike or whatever you want to get. But now minion damage is so strong, and that is also a buff for the SRS build. I think I did do some theory crafting, and we're going to remove Splash entirely from the lineup. We don't need Splash with that type of damage increase on the Radiant Spirit, and that's just an incredible upgrade for it. On the other hand, I was very disappointed with the second nerf we got on Radiant Spirit with the 8% on higher levels. I thought that was unjustified, whilst the first 20% nerf was it was needed, to say the least. So I think this is a counter buff to that, making it land hopefully somewhere where I'm personally satisfied with it, but we'll see what they do. I hope they're not going to nerf us a little bit just to balance it out on the SRS part. But classic summoners, the biggest problem I've seen with the gems is minion speed, of course. That's the second support gem you get from all the quest rewards when playing a witch. And you get that gem. I think it is in Act 1, Cruel, is where you get your second ever support gem to minions. And it is a bit dull to play zombie minion damage 2-linked all the way through an entire difficulty without getting the possibility of getting other sockets to it. So that type of impression got me really bummed out. We don't know what the quest rewards with double replicate gems and duplicate
Ghazzy, what's going on right now is Chris even mentioned that right now. Excuse me. The gem reward system isn't yet in place. They have placeholder gems right now because they're changing the way how things work. There's a bunch of new gems coming out in the future. Also, I believe NPCs are going to be having gems as well. Like Dual Strike, you don't get anymore at level 1. I believe NPCs are going to have them in the future, and I think they mentioned it might be in the next beta reset. The quest reward system for gems is terrible for everyone. For instance, I was playing my Spectral Throw Scion, and I had to choose between physical projectile attack damage, faster attacks, reduced mana, and castman damage taken. And I'm like, really? I mean, everyone's experiencing that right now, so that will not be going live.
Yeah, they're gonna NPCs will start selling gems though. How exactly and what gems they sell still remain to be seen. It seems like, or I've been hearing a lot, I don't know where this originally started, but hearing a lot that they'll sell the alternative gems that you didn't pick up, so I don't know if that'll help in this specific case, but it will help in other cases for sure.
I'm pretty sure, because minion speed is not something they want you to... That should be one of those gems that situationally, you choose, not, well, this is the only one I get, I'm going to pick it up now. So
yeah, exactly.
Expect that to be changed, Ghazzy. So right now it's just awkward for everybody.
Goat's Gem in chat says, what if minion speed had attack speed? I mean, it says minion speed. It seems like it would imply their overall speed. What if it was like a total speed modifier?
Make it like a haste buff or an onslaught kind of thing?
I would like that. Just
numbers.
Yeah, I was going to say something really cool for that is that instead of attaching faster attacks, you would actually use a minion-based gem. Would be minion speed.
And you get a move speed buff as well, which would make things a little bit scootier.
I think it should be, like, because you're playing a minion, here's an advantage. You get a dual gem, movement speed and attack speed.
Yeah, speed as well.
I think that is a good choice. The problem with it, in general, just looking at what the gem would mean for the summoner in general, is movement speed is something we extremely rarely need. I mean, it's just not needed. Zombies to some degree, sure, but Flesh Offering and then an Haste Star, once you apply that, then movement speed is not a problem anymore. But Radiant Spirits, they're more or less capped, and the diminishing return of the extra movement speed would just be extremely wasted. But attack speed, yes, that is something that faster attack has been a rather strong gem for zombies, but again, it is not one of the top. It's not even top 6 damage gems for zombies, but it makes the zombies not stand like mentally challenged metalheads rock and rolling with their multi-strike locked in place, missing everything because the monster ran away. So for actual for realistic DPS, faster attack has been a good gem. So that's the only use I see. Is for cast speed, we'd rather put in Echo, and we don't want to have extra things to that because of, again, diminishing returns.
So overall in your beta, what you're experiencing with summoners in general, would you say that they've improved, a lot, or do they still need some more tweaks for the better? You think summoners in a great spot?
Summoners needs more buffs. That's it. More buffs.
Realistically here.
But yeah, realistically, we I don't want to say too much. GG is gonna nerf us. I think that Yeah, I'm just gonna put it out there. I think that the damage reduction on zombies from bosses it's good, but it could be tuned down a little bit. Yes, it is a little bit overkill watching all our zombies staying alive at 100% of the time versus any boss. I watched them soak the Val Smash from Val Overlord doing 20% of their HP.
Oh my
They're
God.
regened it up. I didn't even have Leech. They regened it up before the next damage took. I think
Alright.
that's a little bit overkill. But on the other hand, it's hard to balance such a tune down because in the end, when we come to harder bosses in late game, we don't want to be in a situation where we're forced to put in 45. We don't want to be in a situation where we're forced to put in Bone Offering and throw minion life in and everything just to make sure that they start surviving. But I believe they could tune it down a couple of percent at least to make it a little bit more balanced. It is a little bit too strong. But that aside, I think that in general, summoners are in a very good position. Like I mentioned before, the changes that affects SRS makes up for that, in my opinion, unjustified 8% nerf we got. So I think that is going to be a really nice way. It's still going to cost us an investment of quite a few extra nodes. But having a classic summoner increasing the clear speed with the way they've changed is a really great way.
Something we
is,
haven't. Okay, good.
This is before you've even had a chance to really test a lot of the new jewels that summoners can take advantage of as well.
That was what
Like
I was gonna
especially
say.
for regular summoners. So even potentially better.
In general, we summoners for late game that want to go end game bosses, which is what I usually focus on in later stages of the game. We cap the resistances of our zombies ourselves. So the southern jewel slot from Sion starting tree has a really nice node that you can apply 28 all resistance and 45% increased skill effect duration, which of course is incredible for the evangelists themselves if you want to go with those, but also a lot of extra resistance for, I think it's 5 points or something in one jewel. It's completely insane. But again, if you want to go late game bosses, from my experiences and the builds that I usually do and what I theorycraft about this is that's going to be wasted slots and a wasted jewel because you're capping the nodes yourself, the resistance yourselves. Especially now that rare jewels will be able to roll extra resistance on zombies as well. So if you're a few percent off, you don't want to put 18% cold resistance or lightning resistance and put a jewel in for that. That's completely wasted, in my opinion. But offensively, it's really good. But again, the offensive increases is just for physical damage, and that is just a straight damage increaser.
Well, thanks for your input. Seems like defensively they've gotten huge buffs, and then obviously the more multiplier jewels, summoners are just getting better and better. Let's hope that I'm not sure if you've tested golems, how they add into the meta, because I know you're already starved on sockets. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm sure they don't add very much damage compared to the other things and the new specters and all sorts of cool stuff like that.
What are your thoughts on evangelists from the new act? Because, well, I mean, sorry, not evangelists, but like, you know, competing with evangelists from mobs from the new act. This is often a question that comes up for summoners. And I mean, it's so hard to compete with the utility of an evangelist, right? The utility and the damage scaling of an evangelist. What have you seen so far?
We have the first big comment would be that evangelist still does physical damage. Physical damage has always been incredibly much stronger than spell damage. And I'm strictly thinking about the comparison between the lantern bearers. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's the guys with a lantern throwing a projectile on the ground. It doesn't pierce, so it's not a projectile per se, but it's a ground targeted projectile that flies over to the ground, explodes on the ground, leaving a yellow burning area.
Mm-hmm.
They're really cool, and their damage is pretty insane. I was hoping for that ground effect, sort of like Cold Snap and stuff like that, to actually be splashing on the ground, to be able to have a AoE shotgun effect from it. So we went in testing, you were in the channel as well, Ziggy, and watching when I tested that with the GMP style on them. And I was very disappointed with seeing them not being able to have that sort of shotgun effect from it, because without that, Evangelist just steps up so much closer to their strength in terms of clearing speed. But in the end, I believe that the new specters are fun to play with. But Evangelists, in terms of endgame bosses, Evangelists will more or less always be better because of those shields and because of the utility that brings. Damage-wise, could be arguably stronger with the pocket lantern bearers nowadays. But again, I mean, if you want to go at 0, you don't want to have to re-level new gems to support your specters with, and then you might as well go with Evangelists from the start, because the difference isn't that big between them. Plus the fact that they die easier.
I noticed there's 2 minions. They both die. Their corpses disappear. I believe the guys that throw the big spear and puncture you on the way to Vol, those freaking things, that would be pretty cool, but I don't believe they have a corpse because they split into a bunch of the little dudes. And then the frozen orb guy, you kill him, his corpse disappears too. I was like, oh, this is going to be a cool specter, and then poof, by corpse.
Yeah.
Sad face.
Yeah.
The big guy is actually my third choice that I've been taking a really close look at. It's called the Knitted Horrors. Really huge guy. They don't leave a corpse, that's correct, but actually I do believe they do, but maybe it could have been a corpse, frozen explosion, but you can bring them out with Desecrate nonetheless, so they should leave a corpse. So yeah, you can get them. They're ugly, they're big, they're not as disgusting when there's a Spectre form because of one color, but they have a really niche type of play, and that's the first Spectre that actually has a mechanical synergy together with your other minions, which I think is great. Problem with it is that I doubt it'll be even good to consider picking them up compared to the Lantern Bearer's strong power and their strength, and also...
My thoughts were, Ghazzy, is that because they apply a bleed on hit, and if you give Bloodlust to your zombies,
exactly,
you can have a massive damage buff from that. Anything that could apply a bleed on hit, then you could utilize Bloodlust. That was the point I was trying to make. But will that Bloodlust equal to an Evangelist or the survivability an Evangelist brings?
Yeah, I doubt that, but ultimately, at least for endgame play, we usually have Spectres in general. There are other ways of approaching it, but usually Spectres are a sort of a backup extra detail on the side, and then your zombies is your main source of DPS. So, like you said, just compared together with the zombies, is the mechanical connection that I think is nice to have a synergy between the 2 minion types that you play with. Problem with it is again that same thing with Lantern Bearers. There's nothing covering them, so projectiles, AoE effects, and stuff like that will eventually kill them. Plus the fact that they're pretty big, so they get hit by AoE stuffs. But the idea of playing with them, you could basically put in LMP, GMP, and that's it. And they will just shoot a lot of already piercing projectiles, causing bleeding, because the way you want to play is just to apply the bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth getting the Lear cast Guardian dudes, or is it you better off just with an Animate Guardian? So there's the guys that have the Lear cast aura. Apparently it's a different amount. I don't know if they stack together or not.
Lear cast stacks. Dying Breath does not stack. So you can have yourself with a Lear cast, and
so there's the new minion that gives a 20% damage buff. Is that worth running, do you think, as a Spectre?
Yes, there is a Spectre. The problem with that Spectre is that it's a melee Spectre. Again, bringing to the same conclusion to why the strength behind Lantern Bearers and the Knitted Horrors are so weak in comparison to the Evangelist is strictly because of survivability. There is no summoner that enjoys snapshotting when that was existing. Well, maybe not me, but when it comes to outside snapshotting, if you have a Spectre dying, you got to take your waypoint, you got to take a TP back to town, take the waypoint to where you find them, desecrate on the ground. And the worst thing is if you have a rare mob, a very rare mob that isn't as common in the map, you're gonna sit there and put desecrates till you get it, then summon it. Yeah. Even worse is if you have Echo in your support gems, because then you have to remove that gem, summon him, put it back, go back to the area, go back to the act you're playing or your map, go into the map, and then continue playing. And that process is so annoying. And now that we finally have experience per hour in the patch as well, that is something that will drop you down in speed so much. Having an Evangelist, those situations occurs, but very, very rarely in comparison, and that is also a matter of taste. But in the end, it's a matter of quality when you're playing as well.
Okay.
Whoops. Sorry. Great. So obviously, it seems like summer's got a lot of good changes. Let's talk about what you've been doing, Pox. So Pox, GG kind of made an oops, and you totally are having fun with that oops. What's going on?
So the oops is that they released. Well, there was a gem that wasn't supposed to be released, supposedly, that is in the game now, that was called Fire Nova Mine. It is a mine, and actually when it was first introduced, accidentally, it didn't even have an icon, so I was playing my character with no icons on my bars, and everyone's like, what? So, so basically, this mine First off, a lot of people are really intimidated by it in a way because it looks really cool. Essentially, what you do is you place a mine on the floor. Mines are placed wherever your cursor is. So if you put your cursor here, your character has to run, place the mine. You then detonate the mine, and it will explode 4 times. Every time it explodes, it looks like the Arsonist Ghost, if you guys are familiar with that. It does the pulse. Each pulse deals more damage. It starts up at 20%, and I think at level 20, the gem goes up to 30% more.
It'd be like Flame Blast, but it deals damage each time.
Yep. Now, the cool thing about the gem is when you scale it with crit, you get really cool things like you get shock stacks and you get freezing. So if you freeze a guy on the first hit, he's going to get frozen on the second hit. He's going to get frozen longer on the third hit. He's going to get frozen longer, and then it's refreshed again on the 4th hit. So anytime you place a mine and it procs a crit, everything is going to be frozen for, you know, a good 3-4 seconds at least at the minimum. So it's pretty cool. For people who don't know, the detonate mines before used to not really be instant. There was a node up above. It's called your mines now detonate instantly, but it was like not really detonating instantly. Now it's really cool because the mine playstyle can actually be really, really, really fast because you can place your mines and then run, and you can actually detonate, and it will not even stop your character. Your character will not flinch. He'll just run, and then your mines all explode. So it makes kind of like, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like a prolift playstyle in the sense of you hit one target and you just run away. Because
I got that sense when I was watching you. It looked like you were playing like a probably fire trapper or something.
Yep, your mind just keep exploding, exploding, exploding.
Fast.
Yeah, that's my playstyle. So the downsides of the skill, now it is a very strong skill, but the downside as always is you need to get clever construction on the skill. You are pretty much forced to get clever construction because if you fight a reflect mob, the mine will kill itself on its first pulse. So it will go psh, and just die. That's the first thing. The second thing is, because it's so important for you to get into the 4th stage of the mine's explosion, you have to make sure it stays alive. If you don't get to the 4th stage, you're not doing maximum damage for the mine. So that's another really cool thing about it. But yeah, overall it's cool. It's cool that there's actually a mine that you can level with. Before, like, when have you ever leveled with a mine before? In what scenario?
Yeah,
so, yeah,
exactly.
It was really cool to see that.
How many mines have you even used, let alone leveled with?
Exactly right. Like the only mine I've ever contemplated using was like 2 or 3 different mines. I don't know why I didn't do this before. For like one of my trappers, I should have actually been using like Frost Nova mine for boxes and just deployed them and detonated when the box popped, or arc mines, and that's it. But at the same time, they're so clunky to use.
Yeah.
So now there are some downsides about mines. So one downside is when you're placing the mine, you're 100% vulnerable. When you're playing like a prolift spec or a range spec, you hit the target and it's dead, or you have a burn or something augmenting that to kill it. With mines, you place the mine on the floor and then you have to detonate it. When you're placing the mine on the floor, the only way you can increase your placing speed is by getting mine laying speed. Casting speed does not affect it. So you have very few ways of actually scaling the way you can place mines down quicker. So that's one downside. The second downside is you can get stunned while you're placing your mine. Like a miner, or whatever you want to call him, a bomber or a trapper, it's kind of like a caster essentially. You're probably not going to be very tanky. So the chances of you getting stunned is pretty high if you get hit. So you go to try to place the mine, you get stunned. You try to detonate the mine. If you don't have instant detonation, you get stunned. There's no reward. So you went in going with the risk of putting the mine down to insta kill it because you take no reflect damage, but you can't even detonate it because you couldn't even place it. So it's like it's like back and forth. I still feel that there needs to be some tweaks because the reason why people don't play mines in the first place is there's no need. Like why do I need to place a mine and avoid the reflect damage when I can mitigate the reflect damage and kill the mob from a screen away? But it's got its uses. It's fun. It's fun and it works efficiently. It's just dangerous. So yeah. I was really happy to see mines are doing something right now. And
it seems pretty high risk, high reward.
Yep. And then one more thing to add on is there's the unique mine staff, which I haven't gotten to use yet. But the cool thing about that staff is it rolls, I think, up to 60% increased mine laying speed, which is really cool for ranged mines, like if you're doing arc mine or something, because if you can deploy them really fast and just shoot and they all die, like it's fine. That's like one of the biggest problems is you have to constantly place your mines. So that's really cool.
Not to mention it allows you to double detonate it.
Yep, which then going into clear speed, when you're using mines with clear speed, it's how fast can you place it, how fast can you kill it. If a mine detonates twice, meaning you only have to put one on the floor, and you can kill a blue pack with one mine, that's great. You just walk, detonate, or drop, detonate, move on. Drop, move on. So that's really cool. So
I'm curious there, as I'm assuming the original keybind for detonate is D, right?
Mhm.
yes.
Yes. How does that work if you're having a smoke mine? Because I mean, that's just a mine, but how many can you place at the same time? What happens if you have different mines? And how does the detonation effect goes? In what order do they all happen at the same time?
Yeah, so they're all at the same time. So, for example, well, in this specific scenario, I have not tested with actual like remote mines. I've just tested with smoke mine and the mine I'm using right now, which is the Fire Nova mine. So if you can put six. I can put 6 mines down right now. You can go on the tree and you can get 7. I'm not sure how much if you go around the whole tree, but essentially, when I get to a strong box, which it's the most rewarding thing ever, I put 5 mines around the strong box, and then I throw 4 traps, and then I put a smoke mine all the way in the back. I open the box and hit D. It detonates all my mines and ports me to the smoke mine. So it does everything instantly. Just
All right.
so
That's amazing.
yeah, I don't know how people were telling me. I could be totally wrong here because I haven't tested it, but people were saying if you use like 2 arc mines and 2, I don't know, flame surge mines and 2 of this, then it's gonna be clunky and you have to mash the key because it'll only detonate one type of the mine at the same time. And I don't know how that works. So
It doesn't sound like that's the case because smoke mine is a separate subject compared to the other. The only thing being similar or common is the mine itself. And if the detonate works the same way with the same keybind, then it shouldn't have any multiple.
It could have
key
changed in the
presses,
beta, or it
required.
could be the support gem is different, maybe.
right.
So overall, do you think the skill needs buff, nerf, or because of its dangerous playstyle, it's pretty good where it's at?
I mean, to be fair, I'm gonna say that I think the skill's potential to do damage is too high because the multiplier increases. It goes from 20 to 30%, and it pulses 4 times. So it's 30% more, 30% more, 30% more, 30% more.
And if you crit, shock.
However, if you want like your ideal best in slot mine weapon, it's a staff. So now you got to go melee. You're using a staff. You don't have a shield. So I would say right now I couldn't really tell you, but I think the damage might need to be toned down. I could totally be wrong. I just still think that mines in general need more quality of life to actually be played, opposed to playing traps.
These builds that uses well, let's say separate entities as a main source of their damage, such as mines, traps, minions in general. These type of builds, being forced to have a melee is not that bad. I myself have a few ideas, at least for Uber, when it comes to the classic summoner. I will be using Monteco's Grasp. Unset Ring with Vigilant Strike. I'm getting the Fortify all for free. So I mean, if you're in a bad situation, you can always have that as an extra keybind and make sure you get some mitigation in a tight situation when you need to get out.
Ghazzy, you do realize you're talking to Pox, the guy who plays with 0 survivability.
No. There's nothing wrong with that. He is totally right. He is right. Because you're using a dagger or a staff, you have the ability to use that. The problem is a couple things. A, are you going to animation lock yourself while punching the mob in the face? Because I have no summons to tank for me. I'm just me and my mind, and that's it. The second thing is I can still get stunned. Not like even if I have 25% mitigation, Aroa is still gonna stun me and knock me out. Like that's the only problem is the fact of getting stunned. When you run these maps with pack size and you have like 40 mobs in your face, all it takes is 1 mob to stun you, and that's it. All your mines are just like, well, there goes the mines. So I don't know. Like it's just that's the only mechanic because I'm a guy who plays traps all the time, and it's like, why do I need to play a mine build when I could just use a trap and still one-shot everything? That's the only... And then with the Trapper, I could throw a Prolif, rock in, and just Vigilant Strike the rare and run past while he dies from Prolif as well. Without any of the risk that mines would offer.
Yeah.
So
I think that idea of using Vigilant Strike on a Spellcaster is not really worth it. Like Pox said, you're essentially animation locking yourself. Maybe for summoners it works out okay, like Ghazzy was saying. But you know, I've tested a few different Fortify setups now. I've settled on something I do like. I use Ground Slam because I'm a Cascader. I have AoE. It works really nicely. But using actual like Vigilant Strike, where you have to actually melee them, and the time it takes to do so compared to the buff, seems to be an issue. And as Hedgie points out in chat, accuracy is an issue as well. I have like 60% accuracy. It works with ground slam because I hit like 10 mobs at once. So I basically...
Vigilant Strike can't be evaded.
Oh, Vigilant Strike is not an... Yeah, that's right. It can't be evaded. Nice, sorry, I did forget that. I did forget that feature. I was thinking of the support gem. Yeah, so I still think even with that though, like the animation locking yourself to get up single target melees as like a spellcaster, or like Pox says, as a mind caster, seems a bit iffy.
Yeah, I think that's very classic summoners. It's completely different in terms of Vigilant Strike in that case. The problem we have, now I'm thinking specifically for Ubers here, I doubt I'll ever be in melee range as a summoner anyways, but Clone Phase and Atzir, for example, all I need to do is convocate, put up Flesh Offering, and when I'm done with that, I'm just going to sit there and beat my meat till the boss is dead. I might as well put some fortification on myself and make sure I take mitigate the damage that will be incoming when the Vangel's shields are down.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing though. As a summoner, being melee is not an issue because you've got either 4 to 5 minions with Montragouls or like 9 to 11 without Montragouls, and then you got Evangelist with bubbles. Plus, you've got a crazy effective health pool probably because you're playing a summoner, and you've got your defensive curses. And at worst case scenario, you probably have like Evolved Discipline or something as well to keep you alive. As a character who doesn't have that, it's like, there's an archer. He's got powerful crits. He's gonna use Tornado Shot. It's gonna hurt really bad when I place this mine. They are so scary.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what I've been up to. So I'm first, with the new crit swords we have being introduced, I want to do a crit spectral throw spec. I played back in Beyond and in Bloodlines, and it worked well. But then I was like, oh, cool, Mathel's playing this. Oh, Nugi's playing it too. And the whole point of beta testing
on that topic. I'm surprised we're not all talking about the melee builds that we're playing.
Yeah.
We're all playing a pretty good variety of builds.
Well, that's where I'm going to next. After I saw other people testing, I was like, this is beta.
Yeah,
it works. I'm going to go test something else. So I tested the idea of Infernal Blow, which got a massive buff with Abyssal Cry. And I wanted to mess around with it with this new jewel coming out that on corpse consumption or detonation, you get 4% of your health back. I didn't find the jewel. I wish I did. If I played softcore, I probably could have got it. But Infernal Blow's first big change is the detonation. Before, you couldn't spell block it, you couldn't spell dodge it, and with that, you would die to Elemental Reflect a lot. Now, it can no longer be reflected, period. You could still take the damage, your upfront damage, but the corpse explosion cannot be reflected. Massive buff to Infernal Blow. They lowered its mana cost by 2, which is also a huge buff, and they gave it a 5% more multiplier than it used to have, 125 to 130. So these are 3 huge buffs. And then I was like, well, let's see if Abyssal Cry stacks with it. Abyssal Cry detonates the corpse's health for 8% of their max health. Infernal Blow is 25%. And to further increase this corpse detonation, I'm using the newly revamped Frenzy charges, which give you 4% more damage globally. Of course, the old Blood Dance boots now actually have more of a use. It's a way for me to generate Frenzy charges. I was running around with 6 of them, giving me 24% more global damage. I was detonating corpses' health for 41% of their max health, and it detonated their corpses' health twice. Because Abyssal Cry counted as a detonation and Infernal Blow. And I'm not sure if it's supposed to be intended this way, but the jewel would actually give me 8% of health back per mob detonated or consumed. And I was like, they gotta change this. I mean,
it does work with Infernal Blow.
Yes, it worked with both. And it was just massive AoE. I'd hit one thing and whoosh, the whole screen just imploded. Or exploded. Imploded wouldn't be the right
So the jewel Xeno's talking about is a unique jewel that gives 4% of your life recovered whenever you destroy a corpse. And I was under the impression that it only worked with actually destroying corpses, not killing the mob and exploding them. But if it works with killing the mob and exploding, that's insane for like Infernal Blow and stuff.
Yes.
I think that was like weird because the tooltip strictly said that they're really happy GG about being very picky with the tooltip. Or with the wordings basically, and it did say when a corpse is removed or destroyed, and I don't see someone shattering when he's critted from frost damage, exploding, being a corpse. That is a living. Well, let's just stick into the in-game here.
No, don't go all organic on me. This is game physics we're talking about here. Everything changes. Well, Frozen's technically not corpse consumption. Come on.
But
Well, that was my
this
impression, that it
prize
was like
recast
shattering
for-
things or exploding them was like destroying the mob before it could leave a corpse, but apparently that's not the case.
No, here's a crazy thing too. I was going crit with it because Infernal Blow's crit is considered like a cast. It's not a spell or an attack, and it's got a 7%. Swords can now go crit as well because foils are 6.5 bases. So you go crit, you double dip with your global crit chance, and when you crit, you freeze. Herald of Ice is also a shatter on freeze. So it's like when you kill one mob, you're AoE shattering everything with Herald of Ice, Abyssal Cry Explosion, and Infernal Blow Explosion. It's just ridiculous. And all three of them cannot be reflected now.
So you're getting a huge amount of HP back every time you do that, right?
Yes. Well, I didn't have the jewel, but I would assume. I mean, it would be like, full health instantly.
Oh, you haven't been able to test it?
Nope.
Does that
I
character
was
still alive?
trying my hardest to get that jewel, but people were like, "I'll give it to you for 3x." I'm like, "Come on, dude, it's beta. It's
I have
freaking
one.
beta."
If you want me to throw it for your testing, it's
Sure.
in standard though. Did your character go to standard?
Yep,
mode as well?
he's in standard now.
Okay.
So yeah, I can test it after stream or after this, and we
Sweet.
can laugh about how
Yes.
broken it is.
Okay, so really fast to bring up. I just got the Tremor Rod and I just played around with it, and the way it works, I just obtained the Tremor Rod in hardcore. So basically, I actually don't really like it too much because, for people who know or don't know, it actually mines can be detonated an additional time. The problem with Fire Nova Mine is it pulses 4 times, which takes time, and then it relays itself, and you can detonate it again. But it takes so long because it reduces your damage by, it's 35% less mine damage, but you can detonate twice. But because they don't go off at the same time, it has to go off 4 times, and then it redetonates where you could have just planted another mine. So,
Yeah.
it's okay, I guess. It's cool that you get 60% mine laying speed, that's awesome, but it's like, it's alright.
Yep. And
Something that I've been getting a lot of rumors around is actually auras. What will happen with auras? Because I've had people convincingly argue about them being map-wise now, and when later on it's going to be changed to that. And I'm not really sure what's happening and what's actually true. So what do you guys think about the auras, and what have you heard?
In what regard? What's the speculation?
I was told that there was changes coming up that the auras would be map-wise, so increased radius will be completely insignificant and removed or changed.
Oh, I didn't hear about map wide. I just heard that they won't get blocked by line of sight.
Yeah, they won't be
blocks now.
blocked by line
so
of
it'll still
sight.
be the same radius, but it just won't be as dodgy and unreliable as they have been in the past. I have not heard anything about map wide auras.
Yeah, because if they're removing line of sight, that means that we can, as a summoner, actually put up flash offering and stuff like that in the room before, such as boss rooms and stuff like that. Actually precasting that, because that hasn't really worked before, and that could be also a problem with the type of aura problems with the line of sight.
Yeah, I think it's just line of sight, which should be a nice quality of life boost, and maybe as summoners you can like hide behind a wall and stuff sometimes.
Alright. I'm glad to get that out of the way.
Another build I was testing, it's the Lightning Trap. Lightning Trap's damage has been doubled. It's like at level 20, it's 90.1% or something, but all the early levels, it's more than double its damage. And then you just throw one Lightning Trap, multi-trap, and everything's done now. And they buffed Ball Lightning as well, so I was like, I'll trap this, and I'm just playing like 2 Lightning Ball traps, and it's ridiculous damage. So, and I'm playing it non-crit because it's only 4% base, but really, really good buff to Lightning Trap. You can actually make a spec out of it. It's only a 2-second cooldown, great clear speed. I love it. Like every trap build, really. Well, that's what I've been messing around with of late. How about you, Ziggy?
I like how you've got a Nightbot command for Lightning Trap's buff. Lightning Trap damage is increased by 90%. Yeah, now it might actually see some use instead of everyone just using arc traps when they're using like LE trappers. Yay!
Yep.
It's cool. I like the Lightning Trap.
It's half the cooldown of an arc trap. So.
Yep, half the cooldown. Ball Lightning Trap doesn't do as much damage as my Lightning Trap. I'll throw 2 and it'll just completely just decimate a whole pack. Blue pack.
That's
really
cool.
Yeah, just to bring up really fast, I remember back like a year ago in, was it Invasion or Nemesis, I used to use Lightning Trap for shocking, and then I actually found out that Shock Nova was better for shocking than Lightning Trap, and then Arc got the buff, so we moved from Shock Nova to Arc Traps, and now we're going from Arc Traps back to Lightning Traps, baby. It's just really cool to see how that worked.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Something else to talk about, because both Ball Lightning and Lightning Trap are projectiles, the slower projectile gem got a buff. Instead of like 10% increased damage with a slower projectile modifier, they made it a 20% more multiplier that gets as high as like 28, 29, somewhere around there, percent more damage, and that just, lightning trap flies really fast, so who cares if you're slowing its projectile speed? And ball lightning on a trap, because it aims randomly which direction it goes, you want it to be slow. It's such high damage. And they also buffed multi-traps now, where it's like LMP and GMP, except it gets 1% every level. So it starts off at 40% less damage per trap, and now it goes as low as 21% less damage at level 20. It's a really big buff.
I've been looking forward to playing Elemental Equilibrium Trapper at some point with the new Lightning Trap buff. That sounds like it's going to be pretty fun.
Oh, yeah. Poison Trapper is going to be the most absurd meta ever.
Yeah, I can't believe this slow projectiles. Let's talk about the slow projectiles thing since you brought it up. I mean, Ball Lightning was already good on live, and slow projectiles had a nice synergy with Ball Lightning because it means it strikes more. And then now it gives more damage multiplier. And then you've got Poison Arrow, which just benefits from it. Like, who cares if the Poison Arrow flies a little bit slower? You're using it on a trap anyway, most of the time. So it procs like right where it explodes anyhow. And then the more damage multiplier on top of that. Oh my god. That's pretty. And Poison Trap has always had like a couple of okay choices for their 5th and 6th links. Like, there was nothing really insane, but this now makes it like an insane choice for like that 5th link or 4th link even. Probably even used as one of the main supports. It's pretty insane. What do you guys reckon?
Well, first thing I'm thinking about every time we're talking about traps and with this new slow projectiles statistics, just specifically for Poison Trapper, is basically we're gonna see the market behave just like the SRS staffs did. We're gonna see some extreme high cost +3 bows in the temp leagues.
Yeah, I like the fact that before, slower projectiles was almost never a thing. I think there was like 1 or 2 things it would be used in. I can't even remember what it was. But now it's like the penalty is you get a huge multiplier for having the projectile travel slower. Now, granted, for some skills like Poison Arrow on a trap, it makes no difference. You just get the damage increase. But now it's like some people might contemplate using slower projectile because it's a huge damage increase. So
Spectral Throwers, if you pick up Ballistic Mastery and Sniper, you could potentially just use slower projectiles now and just get this massive more multiplier on top of your other multipliers. It's a thought now.
Absolutely.
Speaking of projectiles, faster projectiles at rank 1, granted it's a level 31 gem now, but considering it goes up to level 20 like everything else, it got a 20% faster projectile buff at level 1 and a 20% increased projectile buff. Before it was 30% speed, 10% damage, and now it's 50% speed, 30% increased damage. It also received a huge buff. There's a lot of these gems that were always like, maybe, but now you're just like, hell yeah, I'm using that. Conk Effect got a big nerf. AoE kind of got a nerf. The very popular gems kind of suffered a little, but LMP and GMP also received massive buffs too. You can actually go Spectral Throw GMP and gain more damage than Live's Spectral Throw LMP. The multiplier is less on GMP now.
It's leveled up. The drawback is not that high once it's all the way leveled up. Pretty nice.
GMP is 26 at level 20, 26%, and Live LMP is 30. So it's like a 4% difference.
I really like how you're really being rewarded now for actually leveling up your gems, which I didn't feel on live it was anywhere near what it is right now, which is really cool. You really feel like, oh yes, I just got, like a visible 5% damage increase from leveling up a gem and whatnot. So I thought that was pretty neat.
They changed gem progression too.
Yes, they did. That's right. Yeah, it's, what is it, 1 to 19 is
way faster and smoother. So there's not that like awkward spellcaster time when you first reach endgame and your spells are lagging behind. Yep. And then 19 to 20 is much slower than what it used to be.
Yeah, which I think that's fine. It's really good for newer players coming in. They don't have the penalty of trying to get to 19, because as you said, for casters and whatnot, it's like you wait on that gem level. Like, you get that gem level and you're like, all right, time to upgrade my maps. Time to do 72, 74s, etc. So that's pretty cool.
The average, they changed the increased damage on almost every attack-based skill to a more multiplier. You get around like 1.2 or 1.4% more damage per gem level. And like you said, Pox, before an attack would level up, you're like, yay, 4% increased damage, whoop-dee. Now you're like, oh, a multiplier. awesome.
It's so cool.
Yeah, and it works with Ellie, of course, which is a nice change. So now there's a point to level up for Ellie attacks for most of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually like a downside now of going, not a really a downside, but before it was like, do I want to play physical or do I want to play elemental? Because I can just play elemental, keep the gem level 1, don't really see much of an increase for leveling it. But now it's like there's a visible, like if you're going elemental using the skill level 1, there's a visible downside of not leveling the skill up. So I think it's pretty cool. Because you should just avoid the mana cost.
Something when it comes to the summoner gems when leveling up is something that I've really appreciated. We haven't really been able to effectively level as a classic summoner, which I've been waiting for, and now we finally can. And you can really see the big differences when you're leveling up. I think my gem is level 12 or something, 11, when I came into the Val Overlord Merciless. My zombies had, without minion life, all the minion nodes invested. I had almost 6,000 HP on them. And the level before, they had like 4,700. And like the difference between almost 5k going up with it's 1,300 more HP for that one level up. It really is a huge difference, and it feels good that you're actually seeing these big differences. And it's nice to also play some builds that haven't really been properly viable to level with, and then experiencing them in this way has been really pleasant.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah, I remember trying to level as a summoner once, like fully from the start leveling as a summoner. And actually, the damage wasn't that bad. The problem was everything died, like instantly. Like you fight Dominus, and it's just like the touch of all your zombies are gone.
Yeah, that doesn't happen now. Now they're not taking anything.
Yeah.
They're staring at him and eating it, thinking, "Oh, nice."
So Ziggy, what have you been up to? We've heard all three of ours recent beta play. What's your big?
I've been testing Spellcasters. I was originally going to play melee, but what happened was there was massive flooding in my city and everything got destroyed and power was out for 6 hours. So I missed the start of the beta, and then after that, seeing that literally everyone was playing melee at the time. It sounds like no one's playing melee because we're all playing mixed now, but at the time it looked like everyone was playing melee. So I was like, you know what? What's the other thing that's got a lot of changes? Like melee is getting a lot of attention in this expansion. I think Spellcasters had a lot of changes. Shotgunning change. A lot of spells are being rebalanced pretty heavily in light of that, or just as well. And then Eldritch Battery change, of course, probably the most controversial change in the entire beta, like the most controversial rebalance or redesign there. So I've been testing an Eldritch Battery Spellcaster. I started off testing Freeze Pulse and Fireball, trying to test the shotgunning changes, and there's definitely work to be done. There's definitely work to be done post-shotgunning removal. So, firstly, the reason for the shotgunning removal, Chris did a pretty good job of answering it in the Q&A I did with him earlier. But the idea was that it was hard to balance around. I talked to the devs multiple times about new skills they were trying to make and uniques they were trying to make. And, when they wanted to do fun stuff like give us extra projectiles, they always had to be like, it'll be too broken with shotgunning, we can't do it. So, like, Ball Lightning only got released like a year after its initially started being designed because it was too broken with shotgunning, but they managed to design a mechanic that made it work that sort of removed the shotgunning effect. So they had to put so much work into doing that, so they just decided to make everything on an even playing field, that there's just no shotgunning in the game anymore. So that was the idea behind the shotgunning nerf, or the shotgunning removal, which I think makes a lot of sense. But because it's such a dramatic change, and because so many spells were relying so heavily on shotgunning, it means now that there's a lot of work to be done in getting those back up to being not only strong skills, because it's not always about like the strength of the skill, but also how you go about scaling it, especially with AoE, how you get single target. A lot of spellcasters now have to consider, maybe I run a separate single target spell now, like maybe I have to use Flame Surge now as a fireball character. Or, I have to have a separate fireball set up because I can't rely on shotgunning for a single target. There was too much like crossover there, like your AoE spell was also excellent single target. So there's a lot of changes. And I tested specifically Freeze Pulse and Fireball. Freeze Pulse was alright to level with, and while I was leveling, it was nice being like, you know what, I don't actually need LMP. And when you're leveling, mob density is not that high, like they're smaller packs, and just having a really high damage, better than before, single Freeze Pulse was actually pretty cool. Up until I got Glacial Cascade, and then Glacial Cascade was better in pretty much every regard. And then and when you get to end game, to like, even with projectile speed, you still need to get LMP to really get decent AoE. Like otherwise, it's a shitty cascade. And then it started to feel a little bit lacking. So there's a little bit of maybe damage modification that needs to happen. But then there's also mechanics changes that need to happen for a lot of spells. So freeze pulse currently, if you aim more than like off of your character's toes, it like stacks perfectly, which was amazing when you were shotgunning because the damage stacking was like you could stack up basically every projectile from a GMP and just do huge amounts of damage. But now everything stacks up and there's no like gain to that, so it's like a really shitty, awkward feeling playstyle where you have to constantly click at your character's feet to be able to use it. At least from my perspective, I hate doing that. So they need to make some mechanics changes, like forcing freeze pulse to fan out, for example, or changing the aiming range of it. Fireball is a little bit of a different case. I tested that pretty extensively too. And Fireball felt really good on LMP. The single target was enough because Fireball does a lot of damage. I mean, I started using Flame Surge, and that was really powerful. So I was able to get like a falling Flame Surge running, and then have Fireball AOE, and it felt pretty cool. And then it came to the point where I was like, all right, I want to take this into maps now. How do I step this up? And I was like, all right, let's try Pierce, or Chain or Fork. Like, so let's test out all these different things. And then the mechanics of Fireball are that when it either pierces, chains, or forks, it doesn't explode.
Nope.
So that was you could kind of look past that when Fireball's shotgunned. But now that Fireball doesn't shotgun in a post-shotgunning Fireball world, the fact that it doesn't explode just makes it very, very shitty feeling to scale up. Like, you feel very unrewarded by using Pierce and Fork and Chain. It feels like it removes one of like the fun, powerful things about Fireball. I know that before the beta actually went live, they tested a larger radius on Fireball, but apparently it was super OP. So I think they are actually considering maybe making it proc the explosion each time it Pierce, Chains, or Forks. At least that's the impression I got from Chris when I talked to him about it. So hopefully that sees some changes. So I'm getting a theme here that there's going to need to be damage fine-tuning, but I think that's going to have to come after mechanics changes to spells as well, because the shotgunning removal is such a big thing. So I ended up rocking with Cascade. I got my feedback from those skills. I determined that they were not worth playing anymore because they both felt pretty rubbish at endgame. They were fun for leveling, and it's nice not being shoehorned into using LMP or GMP in some cases. But yeah, there's definitely some work that needs to be done there. Cascade, on the other hand, guys, Cascade, what the hell? Cascade's already a good skill in live, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've got a build around it. It's been insane. So being able to scale it, it scales so well. So yeah.
It's it got 25% damage increase. I think at level 20 was the number. I think I have the numbers here.
Because you needed it.
Yeah, I mean, just that, I'm like, why? Why did that get that? Yeah, hold on. 31% at level 20 damage increase. Of course, this number's not final, but I don't like even that damage buff alone is like huge.
It's not. It's not needed.
And then it now doesn't get blocked by rocks, gaps. You can shoot it through the you can basically functions like a projectile now, where it just travels past everything. It doesn't care about anything except for like full-on line of sight wall blocks.
Right.
Everything so we can actually do Bazaar now and not hate our life.
Yeah, everything. Like you can do crypts where there's like those gaps where the spiders come up the edges. Yeah. You can shoot across those. Like you can kite them up around a thing and shoot across.
So they just change the coding as if it's floating, but it still looks like it traveled on the ground.
It goes down one side of the wall and then comes up the other side.
And
it's pretty cool.
The same thing happened with Arctic Breath, right?
Oh, please.
Or no.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
I did talk to Debs about it. I think I talked to Rory, and it sounds like it is coming for it as well. Maybe. I haven't tested Lightning Strike yet. Whether that works. Actually, I have one. I should test that. But Cascade got the treatment, and I said I hope Arctic Breath, because that was going to be the next thing I tested, because that was also a shotgunning projectile, and I wanted to see. I was like, if this Cascade change is on Arctic Breath, it's like, I'm going to try this Arctic Breath, and if it's working the same, this is going to be amazing, but it wasn't, unfortunately. So hopefully they do change that, because that's the one thing that's stopping Arctic Breath from being used. But this, like, I went from hating Cascade. I played a Cascader before. I hated it, even though the damage is pretty nice. Just like the feeling of not being able to shoot past rocks and all of that stuff was super frustrating. And then I always hated the fact that it was kind of a narrow AoE as well, and you would like shoot in the middle of a pack. It would take out the middle of the pack, then you just got to like shoot the left side of the pack, then the right side of the pack. You got to like shoot the pack, like you got to kill the pack like 3 times over with it. It's frustrating, man. But now they changed the mob AI so that packs are now much more tightly grouped, and they have a tendency to walk towards the pack. Like, they have a tendency to group up. So now you're wiping out packs with a single cascade with just the AoE on the tree. I don't even have, like, Carcass Jack or an increased AoE gem. I'm, like, wiping out those packs. So those two changes, the fact that it travels past terrain properly, and the fact that the AoE is much better now, and when you chuck on things like Herald of Ice, it gets even better. Cascade is... I mean, if it goes forwards into... Like, if this... beta is transplanted into the game now. Cascade was super popular. It's so good. It's so fun and so strong. So that's pretty insane.
On the topic of leveling, I think a lot of people kind of want to hear about this, since I've played a little bit around with Prolif and the changes with Prolif. So just to bring up a little estimate, or not estimate, a little rundown for you guys. Elemental Proliferation has its damage reduced to anything it's attached to, or it's 30% less damage now. So it kind of kills the leveling process of it. I think when the gem hits 20, it's 20% less instead of 30%. The area of effect on it does not scale. So I think it's like 12 or 14, and it doesn't ever go up anymore. Area of effect, I believe, had its radius. 1 second.
Rip.
Sorry, no,
Rip Mike.
Sorry, still a little sick. But area of effect has had its radius. I think the base radius is increased by a little bit. Quality does not give it area of effect anymore. Quality is area damage. And concentrated effect got nerfed as well. Instead of it being, what was it? It was 30% reduced. Now it's 25% less. Right?
It's better before you get 20% AoE, then it's the same. And then after 20% AoE increase, which, you know, most AoE builds are increasing quite a bit, then it's getting worse. So it's worse kind of at endgame, but better for leveling, which is kind of cool at leveling. It feels, it's you get it so early now, it's a cool leveling gem now.
Did the mana multiplier go down? Because it used to be like 150, and because Conk effect was 160, now it's 140. So they put the quality directly into the gem itself, and then they give it a less multiplier towards AoE, 25%. So the more AoE you get, the more you notice the conk, but you know how it goes.
Yep, so really fast though, on the topic though. When you're leveling with like self-found gear, or like if you're racing, usually like you get your Prolif like, yes, like I'm ready, like here we go. As a fire trap build, that doesn't happen anymore, unless you found a Searing Touch or something. If you're just using basic 3 links with like crap gear, your Prolif does like nothing. Like you do, because fire trap's base damage was reduced. I'm just gonna go with that, and then Prolif was nerfed, so your damage was cut. Now you do have Anger. I haven't really tried Prolif in high endgame maps, but I do still think it's gonna be fine in endgame maps when you actually have proper gear. Aside from Flame Blast could still work, as Flame Blast has a pretty high damage. So in general though, I was happy to see that leveling as a fire trap Prolif. Like, you're better off just putting multi-trap on fire trap and just getting the shotgun explosion effect and just leveling like that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Man. So I guess the other side of the spectrum of what I've been testing then is the Eldritch Battery change, which is a pretty big topic. I'll try to get to. Yeah, I mean, it's super controversial. Like, I can totally understand why it's so controversial. It speaks to the reasoning of why it was changed. The fact that it's so controversial, because it was such a powerful keystone that so many builds took advantage of. So, it is the change is intended to be weaker than Eldritch Battery. Like, I think they want to make, in some cases, I think they want it to be, in some cases, stronger, but potentially higher investment, or something that you have to more creatively build around. The Eldritch Battery on the live servers takes a subpar defensive mechanic, which is ES. I think most people would agree with that. ES on like a hybrid character is a subpar defensive mechanic for the most part, because a lot of the time you're fighting and your ES just isn't regenerating anyway. So you took that and converted it to a big chunk of mana, which became a very powerful defensive mechanic, which was allow you to run Arctic Armor and Mind Over Matter very easily, and they were way more powerful. And then also dealing with your spellcasting issues at the same time. So Eldritch Battery is very, very strong on the live servers. So what they've done is they've completely redesigned the mechanic of it. So rather than converting your ES to mana, it now puts an ES pool on top of your mana, and it functions similarly to ES. So when you cast spells, it uses the ES pool first before your mana, and if you're casting spells, it doesn't start recharging until the recharge delay kicks in, which by default is 6 seconds, which I feel like might need to change. I feel like that might need to change, maybe some changes there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
what changes are you looking for in the recharge delay?
This is both, I think, for Eldritch Battery and for hybrid builds in general, or for builds that just have like a little bit of extra ES on the character to make it feel like not a super underwhelming defensive mechanic. I think reducing it by like maybe 35% to 50%. So maybe we're talking like 3-4 seconds instead of 6 seconds. 6 seconds was designed when the game was a lot slower. The game is much faster now. 6 seconds is entirely too long, and even after you've got a lot of the recharge stuff, you get it down to like 2.5 seconds. It's
but imagine
it's still way too long.
Imagine a character basing his low life summoner and or CI summoners. If you have a timer where you don't need to take damage, which would be less than 2 seconds. That would make it so ridiculously strong. I'm surviving with my low life summoner because I have, I think, 2.5 seconds, 2.6, 2.7 seconds for the recharge, and that is just enough for me to play with it and be rather ballsy. But if it would be less, I mean, that's basically between the attack cooldown of certain bosses.
That's why you put it behind E. Then you put this recharge delay behind EB, then, so that low life and CI can't benefit from it, and only EB can. And there's your
that's the problem though, and that was kind of my next topic, is that like ES in general, like it's a problem that the current recharge is a problem for hybrid builds that aren't low life, so ones that aren't super stacking ES, or builds that just have a little bit of ES and EB builds. But if you do reduce it, it does become like a concern for CI and low life. I totally agree with that. So maybe they need some other way of reducing it. Putting it behind EB is a solution for EB, but it doesn't really help the hybrid or ones that, you know, builds that just have a little bit of ES on top. So I'm not sure what the answer is there, but I feel like some changes do need to happen.
My big problem with EB in current state is that it seems the most optimal way right now is Zealot's Oath with Enduring Cry. That seems to be the most popular. And anytime I'm the strong believer, if you have to invest into another keystone to make another keystone good, there's a problem. And that's pretty much how Mom is in State of the Game until Cloak of Defiance. You know, Cloak of Defiance changed that. But the fact that you have to head all the way to the left side of the tree, pick it up, and then still run it. Running Enduring Cry is fine, but when you need one keystone to make another keystone good, that's the problem. And I think, like you suggested, Ziggy, putting some energy shield recharge delay behind EB would be a great step in the right direction.
Yeah, so let's talk about the recharge rate, recharge delay style of building EB, which is obviously like you're saying, being forced to have to use another keystone to make something work is a problem. I think being able to use a keystone to make something work in a different way is fine. So I like that you can use Zealot's Oath with it. And I hope they don't change that when they make recharge a more viable option. But currently, recharge delay, so reducing the recharge delay to down like 2 seconds or something like that, is not viable for spellcasting. It's okay when you're talking about your defensive mechanic and you can kind of kite, but you can still deal damage to enemies. But when you're talking about your actual using your skills, taking 2 seconds out of combat every couple packs is not viable. I mean, Invalesco is everyone knows Invalesco from Build of the Week and stuff. He's an excellent theory crafter. He did a test character trying the recharge delay style of building EB, which seems to be like the intended way of building without a keystone. And he took like all of the recharge delay in the tree basically, so invested 15 plus points into it, and a unique that reduces it as well. So he went pretty ham on investing into making this work as like an elemental bow character, and it just, I mean, he would kill 2 packs and he'd have to wait 2 seconds. Wouldn't be able to attack anything in 2 seconds. Yep. You know, it's like 2 seconds for the recharge, and then you have to wait for the actual recharge rate as well for it to fill up again. It's just not. It's not. That mechanic just doesn't work with the way we spend mana on our characters. So there's definitely work that needs to happen there.
Another thought I had, too, is perhaps make half of your mana regen will now instantly apply to ES regeneration. So that way you can't stack it in high numbers. And it's still a nerf compared to old EB, because you're not getting this massive ES pool that or massive mana pool that all scales off of mana and mana regen. So it's still a nerf, but it's not crap.
Yeah, I don't mind that idea. It does tread on the Zealot's Oath toes a little bit, which means that there's less interesting ways of building it, with like less interesting and different ways of building it. But that also does bring up some other opportunities. Like, it is currently possible, I theorize, to run Arctic Armor on Eldritch Battery in the beta, but it's very high investment and I don't think worth it. That would probably make it more worth it. Still decent investment, but you would be investing in mana regen that would also apply to your ES. And depending on how they made that mechanic, depending on how they made that node or that notable passive, that might be an alright option. That might be a solution, definitely. Either that something else, or reducing the recharge delay and rate, or increasing the rate as well, might make it work for more builds. At the moment, it's like the territory of like some totem builds and maybe support builds. It's the only ones that could use it.
I think that the build itself, the node itself, how it is in beta is. I think it's a very, it's a bit too much of a niche way of playing. You really have to consider everything you're doing around that keystone, which is something I enjoy with certain keystones. So if you take this keystone, you will have to consider your entire build around it. But I'm not seeing, at the moment anyways, of making that a really good keystone. I do agree that in the live version it is slightly too, not slightly, it is way too big of a defensive mechanic. Cloak of Defiance, Arctic Armor, etc., etc. I think that is a very good way, a good thing that they're actually taking the effort of changing it, but I'm not sure if the change is good enough. I think that the change has more or less, in my eyes, destroyed it for all type of builds that I would play. There's no way that would fit my type of playing at all. And like we've been discussing, to make it work, we need more energy shield recharge. And even if you bring it down to 1 second with those, let's say they put in extra nodes into this behind the Eldritch Battery, it would still mean that you cleanse your energy shield pool, and when it's cleansed, you can't do anything. You need to wait this 1 second and not take any damage or use any spells whatsoever till you have enough energy shield to start playing and acting again. And the only way you would do this is if you wanted more or less to see the benefits of it. Actually reserve, if not all, almost everything of your mana into RS or beneficial points to it. And I think that the power and the strength behind the node itself has not just decreased, it's almost gone, and you have to play in a very specific way. Same thing with the Avatar of Fire, I know as well. Same thing with CI, but CI is more of a general change, whilst the other node keystones is very niche and requires so much consideration and theory crafting around itself to even be considered to take. And I think that is a little bit wrong in my opinion from what I was expecting of the change, but I do agree that a nerf or some sort of change to it was required.
Yeah, I think I do agree. I think it is too niche in its current form. Though ZiggyD have pretty much said that its current form in the beta is not complete. Like, they haven't given us all the tools to build with it yet. Like, they add more. Rory said they're likely to add more nodes behind it, that there's other changes coming, there's other things that are supporters. Like, I do think that there is the potential for it to be good in some niche cases. I said pretty niche, but I do think there are some potentials there where you can get an extra aura, reserve 100% of your mana, and do it with like 5 points or so worth of passive investment. It's like trading a little bit of life regen for the ability to run a full extra aura, which is in my mind, I don't really view life regen as that powerful a defensive mechanic. I think a lot of people do, but I think a little bit of life regen, like 2.2% life regen, is not that big a deal to trade off for an extra damage aura or something like that. Right. So I think there is some potential for it, like pretty good efficiency there, but it does shoehorn you in a certain playstyle. You either need to invest a little bit more in life regeneration, get a life regeneration unique, or use Enduring Cry. Enduring Cry is fantastic for maintaining Eldritch Battery. It has nice defensive synergy because you're getting your endurance charges and you're using Cast an Image, taking a Mortal Call anyway. Like, a lot of people are going to be doing that anyhow, and it works well. I've tested this. My character's very survivable with that setup. But it does force you to go for that currently. So it is super niche, but there is potential there. I like the design of this EB overall, and I've played with it quite a bit. I just think that once they add the rest of the support for it, and hopefully make the recharge delay method of building around it viable, I think then it'll be probably a pretty cool and compelling keystone. Way more interesting than the old EB, at least.
Yeah, old EB is boring, and it definitely needed to be changed, but I'm one of those guys where it's like, in an action RPG, nerfing things is rarely good if you don't provide something else, like another playstyle or another buff, which they greatly buffed melee, so there is that. However, there's keystones like Blood Magic that still exist that have been crap, except for low-life builds, for a greater part of 2 years. And Blood Magic's intent isn't even supposed to be around low-life builds. So I think that before really this whole EB change, as much as it needed to be nerfed, I wish they would have like at the same time buffed like things like blood magic, make it usable again for people around that side of the tree. That's just my 2 cents.
Going back,
on the other hand, if we're looking at what they did with the previous big patch, they pretty much, well, I wouldn't say forced us in, but they started introducing us to, well, Pox, you're well aware and experienced in this, and that's the hybrid type of playing with the HP and energy shield. When I saw the changes to the Eldritch Battery change, my first thought for the SRS build, but also directly for the Classic Summoners, HP build for Temp Leagues, where I'm focusing first on getting up a level and then doing Regulates here, which many people are doing. Cloak of Defiance together with Eldritch Battery is just completely insane. But now with new change, there is only one wave to go for me, and that's hybrid. And I think that the game is, with the new niche way of seeing Eldritch Battery, is literally pushing us even further to direction of going hybrid. I thought they pushed us pretty hard in it with the previous big patch, but this one is literally shoving us down the cliff, the edge of the cliff. At least for my builds.
yeah, it kind of does in a way. Just going back as well to EB, there's one other thing I want to bring up, because my character actually uses EB in the hardcore beta. The only thing I don't like as of right now, because EB actually buffed my character, because previously I had to take the aura nodes by Templar to run the extra aura, but now I got to respec out of it, drop my mana nodes, get EB, get Zealot's Oath, and I can run it off of my energy shield. The only problem is that Enduring Cry is considered a war cry. It has a default 0.5 second casting time, or war cry time.
It's currently bugged. It's
Okay.
supposed to be way lower. Yeah.
All right, just
that's
making sure.
No issue.
Yeah, because
the other ones are actually much faster. It's
Yeah, I
just
saw.
been bugged. So.
I think Abyssal Cry is like 0.2 or 0.25 or something.
Yeah, they are changing it, so that'll be way better.
Yep,
I can't
alright.
wait for when they make that change to feel like my same
Okay,
character
yeah.
now, but with the faster cast speed, it'll be awesome.
Yep, because that is the only issue I had. Because for a build like mine, EB actually fits perfectly, because I don't spam skills. I drop mines, detonate, and that's all the mana consumption. That's it. I don't have to spam anything, and then I just Enduring Cry and get all of it back, and then again, it's like the same thing like a trap. You throw a trap, you move to the next pack. You throw a trap, you move to the next pack. We're not like constantly hitting or spamming freeze pulse or etc. So EB's, like, in my opinion, it still definitely needs, it's not in a finished, it's not in a polished state, but it definitely has its uses as of right now.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
An interesting point that has arisen out of the whole Eldritch Battery discussion is how spellcasters defend themselves. The EB change took away like one super easy way that was the most popular route to defend yourself was Mind Over Matter Arctic Armor EB. It's sort of highlighted the prevailing community opinion that Arctic Armor and Mind Over Matter are the only way to make a spellcaster survivable, besides going like CI or something like that. So I don't know. What do you guys think? From my testing, I feel like we maybe need more defensive tools. But that said, I've built a character without Arctic Armor and Mind Over Matter that is now very survivable. I have no problems with fizz damage whatsoever. I'm running 4 endurance charges. It basically invested 2 more points in the passive tree to get the fourth one. That was like next to some life anyway, so that was fine. I'm getting Cast No Mistake and Immortal Core, which is better now on beta than what it was, despite the nerfs, because although we have to self-cast like the War Cry, which is like a nerf to the automation of the character, the Immortal Core that I get is like 2.5 seconds. And it's very reliable for taking that sort of damage, so it works really well. So I'm running that. I'm running the Chaos Golem, which provides an extra target and is an extra 4% flat mitigation on top of that. And that plus a bit of armor. It seems to be working really well. Like sit at like 75% armor mitigation on my character pretty much all the time, and then have Immortal Call for if there's a big spike. So I think it's definitely possible to build without Arctic Armor and Mind Over Matter, but it is a much more active playstyle. Like, it's much less automated. Mind Over Matter Arctic Armor, you can basically close your eyes and your character will defend itself. This sort of character, you need to actually play it to be able to keep it alive. So I don't know. What do you guys think about like defensive options?
Well, with the current state of EB, Val packs out, so you're hurting down against Reflect. If you go crit, you're
Definitely.
much more susceptible to Reflect packs now.
Yep.
The second thing is, like, I played an Ice Spear build before. The Biggest E, you may have heard of him. He's browses Twitch. I used his Ice Spear build, and he went phase aggro with spell block. And I used EB with that, and obviously with phase aggro, I had acrobatics, so that was halved. And I used temporal change as well. So I used, you can use freeze and curse survivability, but that's like that doesn't prevent burst damage still. Burst damage will still happen. You'll still take your coal smashes, where Mind Over Matter really excelled. And the only real change I saw towards mana is... The biggest problem with mana on gear currently is, in order for a piece of gear to roll mana on it, it has to be on an energy shield base or hybrid base. If it has energy shield, you're like, I might as well go EB, you know, because otherwise the energy shield is useless. So they did add Elrond now can put mana on amulets and rings, but I don't think that's enough. You do have Katarina who can put mana on top of evasion gear, but if you're putting mana on an evasion gear, you're losing out of percent evasion, flat evasion life. So it's honestly like the energy shield has to do something. You're not going to go for mana on gear on an energy shield character and not go EB. And EB just needs to not be what it is currently, I think.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you. It's way too niche. But on the other hand, with a push over the cliff to push us into hybrid builds, I think that from the current looks of it, it feels like they saw the Eldritch Battery, the new version, to be some sort of a defensive tool for hybrid summoners. But the problem is when you play a classic summoner, you don't cruise control. First off, we have the control of the targeting change, and secondly, we control our minions with the use of spells. If we want to move our minions out of some flame grounds, or if you want to move them out of double flame blaster, if you want to move them out of collateral splash or danger zones or the Val Smash from Overlord, we use offensive spells on another area to make our minions move there. And if we would have this node, that would completely it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. It would just drain our energy shield, and we sit there with our 2000 HP.
I do think Mind Over Matter is going to be worse than it is now. Cloak of Defiance is going to be... If they leave EB in its current state, or we don't have these massive mana pools anymore, you need like what 1,000 unreserved mana for Mind Over Matter to even start being good. Yeah, I mean that's hard to do without EB. The current live EB, that's going to be very, very hard to do. Have 700 mana.
Do you know what's interesting though? I've been thinking about this quite a bit, and sort of like I obviously haven't tested yet because it's pretty hard to get my hands on like a Cloak of Defiance, but I think there's actually some potential for EB Mind Over Matter to still work. Not going to be anywhere near as good as current EB Mind Over Matter, right? You cannot get the same amount of regen, but still you can get like a 1500 to 2k ES pool without much work, which is a larger pool with less regeneration. So not as powerful, because that regeneration was a big part of the power, the fact that it would regenerate right back up. But I think there's still some potential there for EB Mind Over Matter to work and have some synergy. Maybe.
I just don't... Like, I think the problem with EB is Cloak of Defiance. Like, I don't know, make Cloak of Defiance minus 50% mana regen instead of just change... it's reinventing the wheel, I feel. This entire Eldritch Battery feels like a complete reinvention of the wheel, and it's left a salty taste in a lot of people's mouths.
Yeah, but it was needed. I mean, even if you take away Cloak of Defiance, you're still grabbing it to run a level 28 Arctic Armor. Like, that's not going to change.
How are you going to get 28 Arctic Armor? What the heck?
26. I'll say 30. It's the same thing. It's the
29.
Same thing.
29.
29.
With arena weapon.
Oh, please.
Yeah, but the point still stands. If you take away Cloak of Defiance, people are going to find another way to become more defensive using EB, which is going to be just running high-level Arctic Armors and etc. So, I mean... Yeah. I think that it's good. It's good to see a meta change almost.
Yeah,
I'll tell you a really like a more qualitative kind of like my opinions on how this all feels, right? Because that's important. Like, is the game more fun to play with this change? And I'm having way more fun with this character than I would have been having with an Arctic Armor Mind Over Matter character. So that's just like a completely biased opinion based on my experiences. But I have a much more active playstyle with this character. I'm forced into having a much more active playstyle, which may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I am having a lot more fun with this style of play, and exploring alternative defensive options. And I like it at least that some people are going to be exploring different defensive options now for spellcasters that would have previously just been like they would have all been the same. They would have all just been running EB Mind Over Matter Arctic Armor.
Yep, I like
the diversity that is happening. I just want to make a quick correction. If you use a +4 weapon from Katarina and put a level 4 in power, you're going to get level 31 Arctic Armor. That's not even up on PoE Wiki.
I mean, that's some Hot Topic edginess right there. Go for it.
Yeah.
What really hurts...
It's a lot of work for that extra 5 fizz mitigation or whatever it is.
What really hurts EB the most is the fact that both Shotgunning got nerfed and EB got a change, so Spellcasters are in a really upset state of mind right now.
It's a whole bunch of changes for Spellcasters all at once, so it's gonna be awkward. Where I think that I think the potential is there though, and I think throughout the beta with a bit more work, with a lot more work, Spellcasters will be in a pretty decent spot. I mean, it's got nothing on we're looking at 2 different things, right? We're looking at melee as like just received so much love, and then we're looking at Spellcasters like, all right, guys, we're gonna do some stuff you're not gonna like, but it might end up feeling a bit better and more fun down the road. So it's an awkward place, and I can totally understand the general community saltiness about it in general.
With the changes to Shotgunning being negative, they did buff a lot of the non-projectile gems, like Storm Call. With Lockstep coming out, we won't have that desynced, awkward Storm Call anymore, and its quality got changed to AoE instead of crit. Ooh. That's a huge change to Storm Call. And I don't know if its damage got buffed a lot, but I'm assuming so, because Storm Call has been talked about quite a lot on my channel. You know, Lightning Traps buff. Ball Lightning got buffed, but that's projectile non-shotgun.
Storm Call got a 31% damage buff at level 20.
But if you're going EB, you can't get Valpak. Good luck living through that Reflect, you know. And that's the problem I could see myself with. I'm going Valpak with that. There's no way in hell I'm not going Valpak with Storm Call. Crit especially. So things like that we have to think about. There's a lot of things I think people are, at least in my, like jewels, some people are like, some jewels just stink. But I think jewels are overpowered. Even if you have to spend that extra point, just looking at some of these rare jewels made, or even some of the, like, mantra style.
Some of the jewels I've crafted.
Is it called, what's that name of that freaking 3 to 9 physical damage per buff? It's called Mantra of Force.
That one's crazy.
I'll read it off here. If someone could provide a link in chat, it adds 3 to 9 flat physical damage per buff on you. You can only use one, level 64 requirement. But do you know what this means for Pillar of the Cage God and Facebreaker? Like, there's so many buffs your character can have. Oh, Onslaught because your axes? Oh, here's another 3 to 9 physical damage. You know, whatever buff you have on you, or you're in party play. This encourages party play as well. Auras are buffs. Heralds are buffs. I cannot wait to get that jewel, and I think it's going to be ridiculously expensive.
Yeah. But like the intuitive leap reaching infused shields is beautiful. I just want to make a second correction. I failed with the math because +2 ice gems does not imply to empower. So max level Arctic armor is 29, like I said from the start.
What, +2 to ice? Oh, it doesn't work for empower now.
No, exactly. So my bad. Double correction.
Double correction. Corrected the correction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited for these jewels coming out actually because there's always times where I feel in builds like you hit 90 or something, at least with mine, and sometimes there's like 4 or 5 points you have to spend. So like you spec into like life, or you spec into damage, and then you pull out and you respec, and then you go in just to make sure you grab it. But I feel like with the addition of jewels, you might not have to do that awkward like 3 or 4 point or 5 point stretch to get life. You could spend like 2 points on jewels, 2 points on jewels, and potentially get something really, really cool. So this is all towards endgame when you have like, you know, 3 or 4 properties that are actually benefiting your character. So I'm pretty excited to see exactly how they turn out, since I haven't used any of my setups yet.
It's definitely like there are some like leveling jewels and stuff you get from quests, but it's definitely like an extra layer of endgame character customization and improvement jewels. I feel like I really like this system. I do agree that they're very strong in some cases. Like the fact that you can get like life leech, mana leech, like extra block on a jewel that put like 2 passives that you have to spend to invest, and then obviously the currency to roll/purchase it. There's definitely some powerful stuff you can do there for sure. For sure, and it helps. It's nice sometimes when you're like, man, I really need more dexterity on my spellcaster build, and then you can get the dexterity jewel. It's nice. It's good. So I do like it overall. It's difficult for us to fully test the impact of these in the beta at the moment, though. So I wonder. I feel like if they're gonna just do like weak sections of the beta, we're never gonna be able to fully test how strong these jewels are, because this is something that kicks in like a month down the road.
Yeah, that's very true. It takes time to get it takes time to make it more worth than a node or notable.
Yeah,
absolutely. I can completely agree. I think that also, I think there's just a few things that many people would want to know. Is it's actually not the size of the AoE circle that covers the jewel when it has nodes within the circle does things. Not the size, but how much of the nodes that this circle touches or actually brings within the circle is actually going to be able to take, for example, Intuitive Leap together with the Infused Shields and also with the minion nodes, or for those people who want to have an extra curse, the intelligence nodes within this. If it just borders or like, cuts the little slice of the node, will that be able to be spec'd or calculated or counted towards that gem's effects? Or does it have to have the entire circle within the circle?
Something to talk about too is the Scion got a massive buff. You know, the thing with Scion is if you touch her a little bit, she becomes overpowered. You know, if you
it's such a good way of buffing her too.
It's perfect.
I know, right?
It is.
I like it.
Now, what we're talking about here is the Scion, she doesn't have to spend any extra points, because normally you path out, you have to path out one of the 3 ways, and sometimes you path out 2. I know on my Scion, like, I'm playing a Spectral Throw character, there's projectile damage, there's attack speed. I'll take those 2, and now I have 2 jewel sockets. Normal, on all the other sides of the tree, you have to spend an extra point. In the Shadow Tree, you have to spend an extra point, like a Dex or an Int Fluff node, to get this jewel. Scion does not. Also, on the 6 diagonal pathways, or the straight heading towards Templar and Ranger, there's also another jewel there. So you can efficiently get 3 jewels on the Scion now without any extra investment, and that's a great buff for her.
Yeah, absolutely.
As I was saying, it's just such a good way to buff her, because she was always about like making the more quirky off builds, giving you much more flexibility with less initial power. Like the idea you can stretch out and grab the keystones, but she kind of fell by the wayside a bit as the outsides of the tree got stronger. But now that she has access to so many jewels, you can really create that like super customized character. And the fact that she's like a prestige character you unlock after you've played through normal as a new player, that's like perfect. I mean, it's just such a good way to improve Scion. I love it.
It actually fits the role of the Scion. Like
exactly.
You complete the game. You have a little understand. Actually, never mind. You're not gonna have an understanding by normal. But in general, you figure out you have an understanding. Right, and it's just like, wow, I could customize this character, etc. So it is pretty cool.
And the cool thing about that too is usually you don't get good jewels until you actually are in Merciless, and the Scion is like, well, she's overpowered. She has all these access to these jewels early on. Well, good luck getting jewels early on. You know, now you actually have to get the jewel and or buy the jewel, and it does like it prevents the power creep from happening where, you know, she has access to all these jewels. Well, you have to actually find them, craft them, or buy them. So it's not like you just get it for free. I like that a lot. Props to the guys who balanced the tree around Scion, because that is one of the best changes. Because no one was picking up those 10 Dex, 10 Int hybrid nodes, and that's a great choice. Well, I
feel like it's going to be a balancing nightmare for them, though, because there's so much unforeseen builds that can come out of the Scion that they're going to have to react to after the fact.
Well, how are they going to balance it when they still have those awkward 2% move speed and 6% melee physicals in there? I mean, she still has those god-awful nodes that no one will ever touch.
Except now to get more jewels.
Yeah, well, we know you won't take the move speed, but here's a jewel. Speaking of, I do think on the tree, the ones in the very, very outer, the 4% elemental damage, armor, evasion, projectile damage, and melee damage, those jewel wheels are extremely undertuned and probably need a little bit of love. Because despite jewels being very strong, I'm not going to spend 3 points for 12% projectile damage. That's awful. Awful. So I do think they need to buff those up
That's
slightly.
pretty in line with all of the other jewel nodes on the tree, though. There's some that are like 4/4/4 mana, and then you get the jewel, and it's like in an awkward spot off the side of the tree as well. So.
Yeah, all those, I think they actually need to be like buffed maybe by like 1.5 times. Like even 6% melee I don't want to touch. Maybe 8. Maybe 8. You know, like an average efficient node is 10%. You think a jewel takes place as a notable. So on your way to a notable, you would want 12% fizz, 12% fizz, 12% fizz, notable. Not 4% fizz, that's just trash.
Yeah.
4% elemental damage, like, please. Even a Prolith build might be like, not happening.
Damn, so much good discussion just about like the builds and stuff we've tested so far. We had like this primer of all this stuff planned out, but I mean we've just gotten lost in this awesome discussion. It's perfect.
One one more thing to bring up as well. So as a guy who normally plays on budget characters, budget characters being like 3 links and 4 links and maybe a 5 link, I really like, I'm going to really be interested in the jewel crafting session, because going from a 5 link to going to a 6 link is a big jump. Like it's very expensive usually to go from a 5 link to a 6 link. But I feel like getting jewels and alching them or semi-crafting them is a step before getting a 6 link, depending on what you want to do. If that makes sense. Which
I agree.
To me, that's really cool. Like, I understand you're going to get your, oh my god, you're perfect, I'm going to sink, 6,241 Chaos Orbs exactly into this jewel. I want to make sure everything is perfect, but that's later. But just, what if you're alch spamming and you get your perfect, like, 10% spell damage, 15% fire damage, percent spell damage, whatever, leech back its mana on life or something. And it's just like, that is awesome. That's great. I didn't put that much investment in, and I got a great item before you get your 6 link. So I think it's pretty cool.
I agree. There's usually a huge money gap between the 5 link and 6 link, or you're just upgrading pieces of gear here and there. Now you actually have something to spend your money on, rather than, well, I guess it's time to be poor for a while because I need a 6 link. That awkward
I was
feeling.
Thinking about the craft session of jewels. I think that once everything is sorted, I'm going to empty the standard League of Alterations again. Because the thing is with the minion, I've looked at the data mined craft sessions. I want to see how it looks in the end with the statistics. But 4 stats, I mean, that's 2 suffixes, 2 prefixes, most likely and hopefully. For certain minions, I mean, minion builds, it completely depends on what we're looking at, just summoner-wise. But in the end, it's going to be like, I'm going to need 5 exactly similar T1 roll. There's only 1 tier from what I've seen. But 5 or 6 exactly similar jewels. So I'm going to have to craft the same thing over and over again.
I saw one that was like 15% elemental damage, 10% fire damage, 1% mana leech with spells, and then something else spell related. I was like, that guy got so lucky,
Yeah. We're going to see a lot of lucky alks that just work out. The thing is, though, with jewels, they're like super chaotic. That's the way they balance the crafting of jewels, is that there's no tiers, there's no item level requirements for anything with jewels. They're all just the 1 tier. But there's so many different affixes, and not all of them necessarily go well together. But because it's such like a customization point for builds, you're gonna see like you alch a jewel and it's useless for you and it's useless for 95% of the other people. But then there's this other build that's like, oh my god, that jewel's perfect. So there's you're gonna craft a lot of jewels as you're going to craft yours that you can trade, and it's gonna be really interesting economy that's gonna come out of jewel crafting that I'm really excited to see, jewel trading and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the jewel trading will be rather interesting to see, because in the end it's only 4 stats. I mean, it's not going to be worth having a super expensive crafting in it, and I think that is also something that is really nice, to allow more people to be introduced to the crafting. I think they did a marvelous job with the Master's Craft, and also balancing it later. And I think that, I hope at least, that the jewel crafting is not going to be extremely hard to hit the stats you need. Because eventually, for those who want perfected crafts, we're looking at augmentating 2 stats, and then regaling a 3rd tier one. And there's no way that we're going to spend Eternals for that, and then we're going to YOLO exalt it and hope we get the 4th one. And I mean, I hope that the odds of hitting the stats is going to be fairly easy, and that will also open up a lot of interest and possibilities for people who don't go for perfected crafts to actually spend a little bit of currency to craft these things. Because I love crafting. I think it's enjoyable, even if I dump too much currency in it sometimes. It's an enjoyable session, and the Masters Crafting has introduced a lot of new people into crafting in a very good way, and I hope the jewels will be a contribution to that as well.
This is a great introduction to endgame style crafting, because we'll see alching having some, like, because I said you can alch a jewel and then it might be good for someone, you can chuck it around, but then like when you're trying to craft more specifically for yourself, the best way to craft jewels is probably going to be to alteration spam and then regal once you get two decent affixes, because then you're only missing 1 affix. So a 3 affix jewel with spell, life, leech, block, and crit is pretty good.
Hopefully it also makes the Chaos Orb worth more, because it's only 4 prop max. Chaos Orb being a chest, for example, makes it 4 to 6 properties, but a jewel is locked in at 3 to 4. This makes the Chaos Orb more valuable in my mind, because I will totally Chaos spam a jewel in hopes of good RNG. 3 out of 4, like you said, I won the lottery. If you get 4 out of 4, you just made all your Chaos back and then some.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that because of first of it being new, I think that a lot of people will treat them like rings. There will be a lot of rings on the market, just like any other league, but there will also be a shit ton of jewels, if not even extra, because even more people would be interesting because it's new. And I think that finding or purchasing perfect jewels is not going to be very rare. The problem for those going for min-maxing is that you probably want 5, maybe 6 for certain builds of the exact same type. That's when it becomes a problem. But I don't think it's too much of a problem in the end actually being able to find them, because it's just a matter of time. Same thing with the rings. You will always be able to find some ring that will suit your build, because ton of people are alching them, a ton of people are chaos orbing or whatever. And when, like you said, Santa, I think that chaos orbs, I hope that chaos orbs will increase in value, because it's absolutely a way of getting your stats, and it's not that expensive to reroll 4 stats.
Yep, exactly. There's a little tidbit in the beta I was messing around with. I had like a bunch of alterations, so I got a cobalt jewel, and I was like, oh, let's mess around, see what stats we can get. And Pox playing a miner, got a couple cool mine stats. But then I came across one that was like, oh. It said, increases critical strike multiplier with chaos spells. In the current state of the game, there is not one chaos spell that has a critical strike. What? Yeah. And I was like, oh, so what's this new gem? So like, yeah, so I was like, well, there's Desecrate, there's Abyssal Cry, but Abyssal Cry doesn't have a crit chance. There's Poison Arrow, but that's not a spell. So in my mind, I'm like, there's a new chaos spell coming out. Yeah. Finally.
That's nice snooping, Xeno.
So
damn. You waited this long to say that?
I'm sorry.
We're roommates, and you told them before me?
I'm sorry. We can break up later, okay? But yes, I did catch that on one of the Cobalt. And there was also critical strike chance for chaos spells as well I came across, if you guys want to mess around with that. So, Ziggy, you were talking with Chris Wilson for about a good 3 hours yesterday, and I gotta admit, there was a whole bunch of good stuff on there. And let's talk about live for a little bit. What's this Ruckus League we heard about?
So, for many podcast episodes, I'm sure you guys have been regular viewers, have heard us requesting a challenge league or an event where they combine all of the previous challenge league modifiers. So, adding in the Onslaught with the Beyond, with the full Nemesis, with the full lockboxes and shrines and exiles and everything spawning everywhere. Absolute Chaos League. Well, we're going to be getting it. Chris Wilson in my Q&A yesterday confirmed a Ruckus League, which should be an event occurring sometime during the beta as a nice little tide over, and maybe a way to win some more beta keys as well. But it should also be wicked fun. That's, oh my god, Ruckus League's going to be amazing. It's going to be insanity. Like, we've just wanted an absolute crazy league. Like, it's going to be broken, guys. It's going to be well and truly broken. But that's the point. What do you guys reckon?
It's about time. We've been talking about this on the podcast for like a year now, it feels like. I would love a league of just pure chaos, and now we get to all die to it. Yeah!
Oh, baby.
You know what I want to see? I want to hit tab and look at the top right of my screen and see it scroll like this. Area contains bloodline. The area contains bloodlines, exiles in every place, invasion boss, you will die. So, I want to roll a box, and the box says contains only invasion bosses.
Monsters have a chance to give you AIDS on hit, please.
that would be something. That would be something.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
I'm very keen for Ruckus. I mean, I was very keen for the solo self-found challenge, and it was a hard decision to not do it, but I didn't want to take 5 days off beta testing. But Ruckus, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to, yeah. Yep.
You're gonna need designated parties for that. Everyone's gonna be running around with Enduring Cry. Oh, I can't wait. I'm so pumped for this. What other good pertinent information did you and Chris talk about, Ziggy?
It was a 3-hour Q&A, so there was so much stuff in there that we talked about. Some of the things that stood out was they're exploring the idea of a control modifier to give you an extra skill bar, so you can put extra skills in it. So you know how we're often limited by the amount of actual skills that we can put on our hotbar, and we have to scroll them through them to activate our auras or to get different utility skills out. You might be able to hold control and press control 1 to activate a utility skill of some description. So that should be a nice. I see Ghazzy getting hyped because that's a nice one for summoners, right?
Did you just see what Beck said in chat, Ziggy?
I did see what Beck said in chat.
I think there's some hype there.
I
think-
missed
Yes.
something.
Before
What
chat
two
just
points?
absolutely devolves into absolute 1-1-2-1-1 chaos.
There's probably people voting on lottery right now, and like the Powerball. My numbers are going to be 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. Oh my goodness.
Let's not talk about that until later in the podcast.
Sure. So I had a question. Chris is unique. Chris put up a new unique that looks pretty underwhelming. It's like a elemental style necklace, and it's been data mined. It's called like Gluttony of Elements or something on his necklace. That if you vow orb it, it could contain like some sort of like chaos type theory. Oh my goodness.
Chat just died.
More chat for now. More chat. Everybody knows.
Can I see a 3 anywhere in there?
Oh well.
Wonderful chat was wonderful, but now it's gone. Anyway, let's continue. Yes, Krolson's unique.
Yes. Did you hear about the data mine behind it?
I did hear about the data mine.
Did you
yes.
bring it up with him at all?
No, I didn't want to, I didn't want to bring up data mine spoilers. I often try to avoid data mine spoilers for people that might not want it. That sort of thing is, I think, that's such a fun thing. Like, ZiggyD loves when people find their uniques, and especially uniques, have always been, a fun thing every patch. Just what are the new uniques? Waiting for people to find them and post them. And this is you only get this by, I don't know if I want to even say. I don't even know if I want to say how you get it. Such a spoiler. I don't know. If you guys want to, I'm okay with it.
There's all sorts of... Well, I don't know. I just read there's all a bunch of different theories behind it. I would love to freaking hear... I thought you maybe brought it up to Chris. That's why I was just...
No, it's pretty much known what it is and how you get it. There's a particular aspect of something that...
Spoiler alert!
Okay, alright. We've warned spoilers. If you don't want spoilers. There's a particular... so... The idea is that you corrupt his unique. You vial his unique, and it turns into a new unique. This was introduced with Jules, and now it will also apply to his unique. And it has the purity or something thing, and then there's what's it called? It's Gluttony of Elements.
Yeah.
Is the data mined one. We don't know how Gluttony of Elements works yet, though. And I didn't want to ask Chris, right? Because it's like a unique spoiler. It'd be a fun thing for people to find out.
He wouldn't have answered anyways. He would give you some troll question or answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to ask him that one.
No, it's understandable. It makes sense. So, let's talk about what you guys still think needs work. Just playing the beta, there's a bunch of things that we jump quickly to say OP or really strong and things like that. But what, in your opinion, needs a lot of work still in the beta? Pox in particular, what have you experienced? You're like, man, this is still underwhelming.
Crap, I didn't think. Let's. So I guess I'll have to go back. I still think the mechanics of mines need to be changed a little bit. I think there should be either a global buff to just mine laying speed, or in general just add more mine laying speed on the tree. I understand you can get it through jewels, but that's making it really niche. So that's one thing. And I'll think of some other stuff while you guys think of some other ones. So how about you, Ghazzy?
Well, increased attack speed, or make the zombies, or make the zombies be able to auto attack whilst moving. I'm so sick of watching them headbang in the air whilst the target they were supposed to attack is across the other side of the screen, or hitting me for that matter. I'm really tired of it. That's one of the remakes I want to see. But minion speed, do something about it, for Christ's sake. I think that those pieces in general tune down a little bit on the damage that the reduction of the damage they take from versus bosses is a little bit overtuned at the moment, but I haven't been able to test it in the in-game map, so I don't want to say too much at the moment. I'm still in testing. I think that ZiggyD needs to stop throwing out uniques for summoners that looks cool and will be hyped a couple of weeks and then not have any significant or meaningful use after the hype. I'm mainly thinking about the bow at the moment, which seems to be extremely limited, such as many other minion-related items. But this bow is extremely limited, and it requires a pre-starting damage to kill something, and then it's supposed to snowball. But there really isn't much to snowball with without investing too much on the side to make some sort of duo build, which is halfway into a bowl build, halfway into summoner. I just don't see how it could be useful in the later stages, and that's my biggest concern with these new uniques we're getting for summoner so far that I've seen. Well, what do you think, Ziggy?
I mean, as I talked about earlier, like there's going to be a lot of spells that currently they still need a lot of work and mechanics changes before they go to live. With the shotgun removal, I feel like most of them will need more work and mechanics changes and tuning of numbers, and also more exploration by players as well. It might also be the case that some spells we need to explore alternative ways, think a little bit outside of our previous meta, and sometimes hard for us to get away from the way we previously did things. But mostly I see things that are standing out to me so far have been things that'll be ridiculous if they go to live like they are now. Like, I think Ball Lightning has the potential to be absolutely ridiculous if it goes to live like it is now. With a damage buff, with the addition of Wrath scaling, with Soul Projectiles, more damage multiplier, with it already being a good skill on live, it's going to be insane. It'll be like, I don't know, I hesitate to call anything like the new Flame Blast, but it will be super meta. Ball Lightning will be super meta if it goes through like it is now. So I fully expect that to be toned back a bit. I know they also, we haven't talked much about bows, that's because not many people are testing bows yet because they've changed the least. But just kind of like looking at what's changed with bows and without actually having tested. So far, Tornado Shot I don't think has changed much, but LMP and GMP were buffed for a lot of that stuff. There have been a lot of increases to the other skills, so hopefully that's going to be good. Yes. But I expect Tornado Shot will see some nerfs.
Rain of Arrows received a 10% more buff. Ice Shot has a new quality. I mean, really, really good stuff. Lightning Arrow has a higher damage coefficient now as well.
Split Arrow shoots more projectiles.
Yep.
Sick.
I mean, really, really good changes to bows. Just they're not playing much because they didn't change the weapon base too much or the tree.
Yeah, that'll be something we're able to test a little bit more. But yeah, I expect a little shuffling to happen in regards to the LMP GMP changes for bows, but we'll see. But yeah, I see some things like Ball Lightning going to live currently, if they went to live like they are currently, which I don't expect that they will at all, being pretty super meta.
Yep. For me, I'm really, really happy what they did to claws. I do think that axes, obviously. The new Demon Fang axe is one of the craziest weapons I've ever seen, with the potential of a 10% local crit on it. I mean, that's just... day one that's going to be... Freaking hour one, AXN's going to have that thing ready to go, mirrored 6-link, all that good stuff. So, I'm really excited. You know about this, right, Ziggy? The Demon Fang's axe? It's the Dagger Axe final form. I mean, it's like... Super Saiyan Goku 4.
It's a beast. Yeah.
It's
over 9,000 power level. Exactly.
I would like one of the changes I think that still needs work in terms of weapons is, yes, there is a mastercrafting option, but it requires a level 7 or 8 mastercraft. But crafting staves and wands is still a pain in the butt. And I do think that if Tornado Shot's going to receive a nerf, Kinetic Blast also needs his receiver nerf because of the GMP changes. It further buffs Kinetic Blast, and that is one of the strongest skills in the game. So I would like to see a drawback there.
I definitely see Tornado Shot and Kinetic Blast both seeing some negative attention.
Yep. Sure. In terms of buffs, I know Elemental Hit gets brought up a lot. It would be nice for that to get changed. They did a great job with Glacial Cascade, Infernal Blow. I didn't check Lightning Strike yet, but Dominating Bow I still think needs to change. The mana cost is still way too high. And then any spell, trappers tend to spend mana at very large increments, or Cold Snap, things like that. With the EB changes, it's going to be a lot harder to sustain things like that. I would like to see a drawback on the mana cost of those skills, because they're still way too high for some traps and whatnot. But yeah, that's about it.
One thing I wanted to touch on before you... Oh, go ahead, Cox, before I bring up...
I was going to say, going into maps, there is a base mob that now inhibits maps and is very upset. Are you guys familiar with, when you're on the way to Combe, the little guys that stick their tail underground and shoot you? You see, when you go to maps, they're all grouped together. So there's like 12 of them, and they all decide to put their tail in different locations.
They body block and trap you in a little prison of death.
I have when I was running with Unhost, we were in a 74 map, and they are very upset individuals. They're like Devourer 2.0, and I'm just letting you guys know right now, they're So you kill their tail, then they go invulnerable, go back underground, and they're all grouped up. They're all next to each other. That's the scary part. So they're terrifying.
Yeah, the tail dudes, the new devourers, might need some changes for in maps.
And then there's there's like these eye tentacle mob.
Kinetic blasters. Oh my.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
good
get a
God.
pack size,
Yeah.
you'll get like 25 of
Yeah,
them.
that's an
Oh.
issue because with the shotgunning change, they removed a lot of the one-shotty stuff, the real like spike damage, and made the game better and more tactical. But then introducing something like kinetic blast back into the game, which is just like most of the time not an issue. But then every now and then you're gonna be like against a wall or something, and you'll just get absolutely one shot with no. You'll take like 20k damage in one hit.
Projectile map, you're done. You're done.
Yeah, it's that. Like, it's such a... Like, we know how strong it is against enemies, and that against us is, like, a step backwards when they're taking a step forwards with the removal of shotgunning from enemies.
Those
This
guys...
is just, like, worst shotgunning. This is the worst shotgunning that you could possibly have.
Those guys who throw the spears and puncture on hit automatically hurt. Oh my god, they hurt.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them in maps yet.
No, I've seen Act 4 Merc. They freaking chunk.
Right.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
god.
The ones in Dried Lake.
Yeah, the 67 zone. And if and when we see those in maps, it's going to be, as you would say, Pox.
Yeah, the Tornado Shutters and the Puncture guys with the 20% aura are all really overtuned as well, I'd say.
Yeah. Speaking of overtuned, I feel that Act 4 mob's health is really low, but the rest of the game's health is super high. I don't, have you experienced this? Like, you go through Act 4 normal, and you're like, wow, there's no HP
Yeah,
on these
they're
guys.
still working on that, they
And
said.
then, yeah, I know. And then you get into Cruel, and it's like the zombies, like, what the heck? Like, I just killed all these crazy mobs on the way to Combe, no problem. And then this guy, like, I sneeze on him, and I don't know. I just felt like the mobs just don't take damage in Cruel at all anymore. I know it's not
The
tuned.
totems in Act 4 around Calms, the totems both are really tanky and they do a shit ton of damage. I saw some feedback from a lot of people on the feedback forums as well about this. It literally feels like they don't exist. It's like a paper you're going through, and then suddenly there's a totem bringing you down to you almost die in a few milliseconds. And that's basically the weird balancing in Act 4 at the moment. I think they need to scale up the minions and scale down the totems slightly.
I like the little cute totems, though. I love beating them up. It feels so refreshing.
I love
midget
the
ones.
The little tiny ones, yeah.
derpy
Yeah.
mobs like that. It's awesome.
The one you just go near and you're like, the new beetle. Yes. Thank
Yeah,
God they
yeah.
don't have otherworldly little turds.
It's like tiny little, these little totem things. Like,
I've
oh,
actually-
they're horrible.
I've never found a blue pack of them. I've always found them
Neither have I.
white.
And then
Yeah,
they just
same.
insta-die, and it feels so satisfying. Like, I'm so strong.
I was thinking about the
Podcast
new
fans.
item bases, and when it comes to crafting and stuff like that, it's going to be really interesting to see the new mirror service endgame crafts, to see who creates what. I know for a fact that the Ventor is stacking up a lot of Eternals, so it's going to be really interesting to see what they're cooking up, the known guys, so to say. So it's going to be really fun. I'm just happy it didn't affect anything of what I've done.
Well, I know we're running a little bit short on time here, so let's kick off a Q&A. Sound good, everybody?
Yep.
But I think before we go on to Q&A, could we maybe talk divination cards?
Okay,
That's what we've
okay.
seen so far.
That's right.
That's a pretty
Let's talk
big topic
Pokemans.
people want, mate.
Pokemon.
So here's what we know about divination cards. There's like a teaser image essentially posted on the website, but the most important pieces of info have come from Chris in my Q&A recently. Is that he said that he basically, not fully confirmed, but basically very strongly implied that it's a deterministic way of farming for specific uniques. So you collect the cards through some fashion, and they allow you to either combine them together or create a specific unique. So what do you guys think about it? What do you guys reckon? What,
I
speculations?
like it. Yeah, I like it because I was actually going to talk about magic finding really fast, but it's cool because it gives you an option of doing something rather than what you have to do. I know that didn't make any sense. Okay, so basically, rather than having to like farm Palace Dominus for you know, or farming Dominus for, you know, certain things, you're going to be given an option potentially to farm in something else. So you don't have to farm the same thing. Like, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing.
It reminds me of the Dark Moon Fair from WoW, where you collect a 7-piece set, and once in a while they show up, and you can turn those sets to get that set unique. And it sounds something like that. Like, basically, there might be 6 Chevrons cards, and when you get 6 of them, you purchase the Chevrons wrappings, you know, things like that. And of course, this, you know, will have its own price value, but they're utterly useless until you have them all. That's the implication I'm getting behind this.
It reminds me a lot of Varici's like Six Link. It's
yes.
a way of working your way up towards something that you really want. And he said that Chris did say or suggest that there would be high-end uniques available. He was kind of trolling a bit, saying like it basically guarantees that every time you farm a boss, you get Shavs of Voltaxic. But because everyone was quoting him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sounds like you'll be able to, if you really want your Shavs, it's a way of working towards it. Besides just saving up currency and trying to trade for it, another way of like farming it up yourself.
Well, at the current rate on the market for Shavs, I mean, the normal new Shavs is probably going to be worth just as much as a lightning coil with the current rate of its crashing value.
Rip.
You know, Ghazzy, sell those Shavs.
Let's see if they have these cards that work towards a unique that's based around traps, and then when you get them all and you have this unique that works around traps, are you activating the trap card? I was just wondering. You guys suck. I hate you all. All three of you suck.
That's not nice.
Someone will get it in chat. Where's my Yu-Gi-Oh fans? You've activated my trap card? Alright, anyways. Let's do this Q&A. Fail. Fail.
I'm looking forward to seeing the divination cards. I like the idea of. I don't know how I feel about I think I like the deterministic farming of uniques, but I like the idea of like alternative things that you can do, alternative farming metas to just magic finding or stacking currency up. It's pretty salty.
Half of chat loves it, half of chat hates it. I'm okay with this.
You got some fans, Got some Yu-Gi-Oh fans in chat. Alright, let's move on to the Q&A. We've got some good questions today. First from Source Master. With their change to EB, how are casters supposed to do for defense? What are the options for casters right now in beta? Since I've been tackling this, Might Have Matter Arctic Armor are still possibilities. You can still go for level 25 Arctic Armor. People have done the math. On a mana-based character without Eldritch Battery. As I've said, maybe Might Have Matter could work with Eldritch Battery. There's probably going to be more work coming to Eldritch Battery. And on top of that, there's armor exists. You can also stack armor and use endurance charges, use golems, use Custom Image Taken, Immortal Call, use regular Immortal Call. There's a lot of other defensive mechanics that you can explore now that people have just forgotten about because Might Have Matter Arctic Armor was so easy and so strong. Any thoughts to add to that, guys?
Well, see, defensive-wise for casters, you've always actually had the option of going Phase Acrobatics. That's always been there. So that's
you can do an Intuitive Leap now as well, so that you don't lose any ES.
Yeah. Yep, which is really, really sick. So that's people don't ever really seem to play Phase Acro on casters. It's kind of like forbidden because why would you do it when you could go Might Have Matter Arctic Armor, EB, etc.
It does open up that option for sure.
So that's an option. Another thing is you could potentially go a little less damage and go for the Scion Life Wheel and go for like a 190% life build. You've got that option. Running Arctic Armor is still totally possible as it got reduced. It's like 130 mana at level 20 or something. If you decide to go EB, it promotes the use of self-casting Enduring Cry. Now, since there's also so much more duration nodes on the tree with every node, or sorry, every charge now is linked with 2 durations with the exception of the one with the niche one of like the spell damage per power charge, etc. So it's going to be a lot easier to maintain your endurance charges if you need a duration. And then because of that as well, I think Oak and Merciless, taking 1 endurance charge from him, is totally an option now if you're going to be self-casting Enduring Cry. Yeah. So inherently you get buffed if you're self-casting. So I think they're fine. No problem with them.
Something we need to explore a little bit more in the beta. There might be some attention that ZiggyD needs to pay to it, but I think at the moment it's mostly up to us to explore it in the beta. So I'll do my best with it. You guys do it too.
If EB stays, obviously this isn't its final state. It does need more love. But if EB gets these changes, we're definitely going to need to see a change to Mind Over Matter because it's not very good with the new EB change. Anyways, next question.
Alrighty. Misa, which master would you guys like to have next? I'd like to see a Jewel Master. Yes.
Jewel or Flask?
Yeah.
Jewel
Flask, not so much in my opinion. People are already transmuting flasks and then selling them on the market. So I mean, I feel that the only way we would have a Flask Master that would be good in my opinion would be if Flask actually could go rare rolling, and that just seems completely broken.
No way.
Mm.
I mean, you know, I've spent 120 alts before trying to roll that. You know, your Seething Staunching or your Bubbling Staunching, Eternal Flask. So I don't know. But yeah, Jewel would definitely be more preferred because that's the true min-max right now, not Flasks.
So here's the thing about the Jewel Master, which is the only reason I'm in favor for it. I would normally love, since I love Flasks, but because when you're crafting a Jewel or basic crafting a Jewel, you've got your 1 property Jewel, then you augment it for a 2 property Jewel, and then you regal it for a 3 property Jewel, and then you would have to exalt the 4th one, right?
No.
Well, in this scenario, you could use a Master, for example, to add a 4th stat temporarily. So I think that is a perfect way to synergize into it.
Yeah.
Next question.
Sure thing. Just finished posting another one. This is one for Ghazzy. How is mob targeting now with minions? Just need a little bit more of an in-depth answer than what you were talking about before.
Yeah, it is a very good question, and it is one of the things that basically turned off the cruise control for your car. Before, in the live version, you start your summons, you do all the necessary preemptive stuffs, and then you go into the maps, and you can go into a room and then go to the toilet, come back, and the room is cleared of the enemies. You don't have to worry that much. That's basically how it worked. But now, it's more not the enemies targeting the first zombie that goes into the room. That's the main problem before your zombie starts surviving everything, which isn't going to be a problem in the beta at the moment. But instead of targeting one and the same zombie, the damage is more spread amongst the minions, which I think is a really, really comfortable playstyle. And also that as soon as you get a little bit overrun with enemies, your whatever 10 or 11 zombies or whatever you're playing with is not going to act as a...
No.
Uh-oh.
You're muted. You're muted. Ghazzy, you're muted.
Ghazzy, you're muted. What happened?
Rip.
I think he can't hear us either.
Oh, shoot, and he closed the damn thing. This screws up everything.
Rip, Ghazzy.
Turn on your video. Turn on your video.
Awesome.
Thank you.
See?
My micro, first you started right, but I wasn't muted, so I was like, no, it's not muted. All right.
My SOS worked.
Well, now you're a spinny circle. Anyways.
Let me know when I start again.
Let's do the next question while we wait.
Yeah.
Alexor asks, do you think most people will choose not to use lockstep? Even under 50 milliseconds, there's a good amount of input lag that some people will find annoying.
Okay.
50 milliseconds of input lag is like not that much, not that bad. I mean, I'm Aussie. I've played games plenty of times with like 200, 150, but 50 is like, man, that's like godly. I think that feels perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, 50 is like legit as hell.
But if 50 milliseconds of input lag does bother you, and desync doesn't bother you as much as that input lag, then you'll be able to use lockstep. I think we might see some people like playing ranged characters, not in hardcore and stuff, using lockstep even if they have good latency, just because they prefer that smoother experience, and then the occasional desync doesn't bother them. Otherwise, and I've heard a few people even in hardcore saying that they would prefer to use that than have the input lag. But I think we'll see like a lot of melee people, even with high latencies, using lockstep, so they know exactly where they are. Because I've heard the flip side for people saying, you know, in hardcore, I'm going to use lockstep. I'd rather have the input lag and know where I am. So, you know, it'll go either way, I think.
I think we got time for about one more, and then we got a goodie to give away, by the way.
Okay. Let me try and pick out a good one here then. Here's a good one. Nosebleed asks, here's a question. What will happen to the currency demand needs spending when you have to manage one more craftable item, referring to jewels?
Hopefully this is a buff for the Chaos Orb. The Chaos Orb is super liquidated right now, you know, like 40 plus for an Exalt in softcore leagues, 35 plus in hardcore leagues, and it gets really annoying. Hopefully this this makes more of a use for Chaos Orb. So like right now Chaos Orb is definitely the most, you know, easy gem to get, or easy piece of currency to get in game, and now we'll actually have a use for it, more of a use for it, because you know you chaos spam your maps. You don't really chaos spam anything else I could think of. Once in a while you do it on a weapon in self-found, but it's awesome because it's only 3 or 4 prop for a rare. It's not 4 to 6 prop. It makes the Chaos Orb really, really useful.
Something that I think a lot of people are concerned about is that this is like a mandatory thing that they have to spend for their characters now, and they're not going to be able to afford to play their builds. But jewels are entirely like an optional thing that you can spec into later. Like a lot of them are through a path that you can route through anyway. Like there's like a live path you'll route through, and there'll be a jewel next to it in a separate path that you can basically spend an extra 2 points to get later. So you can like respec out of them or respec into them at will. Like you might have to spend a few regret orbs here and there, but you have that option of specking into them later once you do have the currency and you want to like further optimize and customize your character. So I don't think it's going to be prohibitive in any fashion. Unless if you're trying to build like a build around a specific unique jewel, then you know that's the same as any build that relies on a certain unique. You're gonna have to spend for it.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Gonna finish off that comment before I went to standard. Instead of being AFK with your minions, now when it comes to the targeting, you actually have to worry when there's a lot of enemies there, and even if your minions are not getting overrun, you actually get damaged. You actually have to think about capping your resistance, having effective HP, because you will take damage one way or another. Before, it's only been about dodging projectiles, taking some collateral splash, move away if they're chasing you. Now they're actually attacking you, and there's an actual use for spells like Convocation, surrounding yourself with your minions, forcing the enemies to actually attack them because there's no pathing to get to you. So there's a few game-changing things because of that little change, but I'm enjoying it. It makes the game more active for classic summoners.
That sounds pretty good.
Good answer.
Good input. Anyways, well, this concludes the podcast. During the show, Bex GGG was in here, and she graciously asked us if we'd be willing to give out some beta keys. And, of course, we're not going to say no to that. And I didn't know how many she was going to give us, but in my email here, we have 5 beta keys. 5 beta keys to hand out to you guys. Here's what I request, is that, 1, we're going to raffle these off via Nightbot. 2, you must have a verified Twitch account, so that way you're not making multiple Twitch accounts. If you win, this is only if you win, send Xenocide Genius a message via Twitch so that I could give you out your beta key directly after the show. Mods, if you'd be able to put a link there. 2, if you are already in the beta, please say so. Don't be that guy. Be nice. You know, this is a huge thing that GGG did, and we really appreciate it. So again, send a message to Xenocide Genius via Twitch. I did just put chat in slow mode. Doesn't look like it, but I did put chat in slow mode.
The key hype is real. Well, thank you guys for watching the podcast. It was a lot of fun. We had a long list of things to discuss that we didn't even touch because the discussion we were having was so awesome. So lots of cool stuff to talk about.
In case you're wondering, a verified Twitch account is you did not use a fluff email. You actually use a email used regularly to verify your account. So when I send you this message, you actually have to have a Twitch account verified through an actual email. And don't type anything in chat, please. I'm about to put this in like sub-only mode. This is insane.
Don't type anything.
I got this. I can see it. I got eyes of a tiger.
He's got the eyes of the tiger. Sorry.
Exclamation mark raffle disables you from the giveaway.
Oh, I'm glad my mod is gonna get banned. There we go. That was simple. All right.
Wow.
The first winner is
Got it.
Azric 1430. Congratulations! If you have a verified Twitch account, please send Xenocide Genius a message via Twitch, and congratulations.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5.
Guys, please do not type anything. You don't have to type anything. Jesus.
You're telling a river not to run.
Don't yell at Twitch chat.
You're telling Twitch not to Twitch.
Yes.
Number 2. I don't know how to say your name, and there it went. Have fun, Pox.
I got this. And the winner is Sloterar.
Is this in slow?
Oh, Stotterar, not Slotterar. Stotterar.
I had to do this with like
turn it off. Now it's not
3.5k viewers yesterday, Xeno. I know the pain.
Oh my god. How do I put it in sub mode? /sub mode. /sub. chat. I don't even know how because I've never done it before and I hate it. Screw it.
So I got it. Don't worry. I got it.
Number 3.
I got this all.
It looks like hemorrhoid, but it's homerid. Congrats.
Yep, Homerid. Homerid is number. You gotta say more. Dude, man, he just won a beta key.
You
Like,
won
what?
a beta key!
Congrats, man! Welcome to the beta. It's good fun in here. Give lots of feedback to GGG, bro.
Just don't open any lock boxes. You have a
And
chance
winner
of
number
crashing.
4 is Nightbot's thinking.
It's thinking hard.
Subscriber only, thank God. The 11th doc.
The 11th doc. Congrats.
Pay to win stream. Pay to win stream.
Yeah.
Can Nightbot talk?
Yeah, he can.
Wow, what a scumbag. How does he do that?
Thank you, Dignitas. I appreciate
By
it.
cheating.
God, I have someone from Dignitas in my chat, and he's a mod. He's so cool. Can I have your autograph, please? Here we go. Number 5.
Is that the last one?
Sammy the Seagull.
Well, that's not an everyday name for a seagull.
Okay,
but
so
we'll
I'm gonna go over these names again really fast. If you won, remember to send a message to Xenocide Genius. If you look at Clufu in the chat, the little green man with the cat icon, he is giving you a link and providing it so you can message him directly. So winner number 1 is Azric 1430. Winner number 2 was Slow-Terrar. I'm sure you know how to say it better than me. Winner number 3 is Homerid. Winner number 4 is the 11th doc. The 11th doc. There we go. And winner number 5 is Sammy the Seagull.
Yeah.
I like that.
All right.
Yeah, I like that name as well.
All right, you guys. Can someone
sub
take
mode.
it out of sub mode, please? That'd
If
be.
the room is no longer in slow mode. Oh,
Yeah,
well, how
we
about
need it not in sub mode.
unsubbed?
Sub, yeah.
Unrecognized command.
I sent you the beta keys, Xeno.
I have all 5. I have all 5 via email.
Dex sent them to you as well.
Yeah. Thank you guys. All right, this concludes State of Exile podcast, and you guys are free
Hope you
now.
guys enjoyed it. Freedom!
All right.
Thanks for
We're
reminding
sending
me.
the keys.
As
Bye,
It was a lot
everyone.
of fun, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Cheers, guys.